2 pieces of Heaven's End grade equipment. News of the fairy tree being reborn was soon spread to all of the fairies, causing the entire fairy clan to burst into a frenzy, and more than half of them cried tears of joy. The rebirth of the fairy tree not only meant that they were no longer at risk of going extinct, but it also meant that their power would become even stronger and even purer, and that their lifespans would be longer. Just as Ling Chen and Kaya returned to Ling Tian City, Shidisika hurriedly ran over and grabbed Ling Chen's hand, refusing to let go.
Ling Chen, where did you go? I couldn't find you anywhere.
Ling Chen held Shidisika's hand and smiled before he brought her to the administrative district and told Yunming Xian and the others that he was going to leave. They fell silent for a moment, and although they didn't want him to go, none of them tried to make him stay. This was because they knew that staying in the Ling Tian city for the past month for him was already quite rare. In order to complete the thing that was more important than his own life, he had most likely been incredibly impatient for the past month.
Leave Ling Tian City to us and go do what you need to do. Don't worry about us here,
Yunming Xian calmly said as she looked at him.
Do your best, big brother Ling Tian. Finish it soon and come back soon.
Shao-Chi was quite reluctant to see him go.
Big brother Ling Tian.
Su'er took a small step towards him, and a look of hesitation flashed on her snow-white face as she swallowed the words she was about to say. Instead she said,
You'll definitely succeed. Do you need me to help?
Xianyuan Diawu asked anxiously.
No need.
Ling Chen shook his head.
Only I can do this.
Xianyuan Diawu did not persist, and she gently nodded her head. She had heard from Yunming Xian and the others that Ling Chen seemed to be looking for something important in the virtual world, but no one knew what it was. Since he didn't say, she wouldn't ask. Ling Chen squatted down and put his hand on Shidisika's shoulder as he said with a smile.
Sha, I need to leave for a while, so make sure you listen to the big sisters, okay? Leave? Aren't you taking me?
Shidisika was quite surprised, but she heard that he was leaving without her. She became quite anxious. During this period of time, Shidisika had stuck tightly to Ling Chen and almost never left his side. As such, Ling Chen wasn't surprised that she would react like this. He shook his head and comforted her with a soft voice.
I can't bring Sha this time. It's not because I don't like Sha, but it is because this is very important to me, and only I can do it. If I bring Sha, I might not be able to do it anymore. As such, Sha needs to be good and wait here for me, and when I'm back I'll take Sha out to play, okay?
Shidisika raised her face, looking incredibly wronged as she looked at Ling Chen. She then looked down and fell silent for a while, as if she was thinking about something. Finally, she reluctantly nodded.
I'll listen to Ling Chen. When you're not here, I'll play with the big sisters.
Just as Ling Chen was saying goodbye to everyone and preparing to leave, a stout and short figure hurriedly ran over while yelling out from the distance.
Brother Ling Tian! Wait, Brother Ling Tian!
Ling Chen put down the spatial orb that he was just about to crush and turned to see a dwarf running towards him with sweat all over his face.
Elder Dita, what is it? I finally caught up, you.
The dwarves did not have any fighting power, nor did they have the constitution of the fairies. When Elder Dita arrived before Ling Chen, he was huffing and puffing, and he was only able to speak after resting for a short while.
I heard Greenwood say that you were going to leave, and that you might not come back in a while. I thought that you'll be going to a dangerous place. We were planning to use the chilling crystal chalcedony to create a full set of equipment for you, but it looks like we don't have the time. Luckily, the armor and weapon were completed during this month, and I'm sure they'll be of use to you. As Elder Dita spoke, a crystal armor giving off a chilling aura and a knife with an equally cold aura appeared in his hands. As soon as the 2 pieces of equipment appeared, the temperature in the entire hall fell by a few degrees, and everyone felt a trace of coldness flood through their bodies and souls, and they couldn't help but shiver. "What mighty airs," Ling Chen said subconsciously. For equipment to give off such airs, they were definitely exceptionally powerful. "Wow! What a pretty armor and knife! Are they made from ice?" Xiaoqi yelled out. No matter if it was the armor or the knife, they both looked as if they were carved from translucent crystals. For the dwarves, who have great forging abilities, to spend a whole month on these two pieces of equipment with the chilling crystal chalcedony as the raw materials, they definitely were not ordinary equipment. Everyone impatiently looked at their stats. Chilling crystal battle armor type, full body armor grade, heavens and equipment requirements, any profession above LV60. A powerful battle armor forged by the dwarves with chilling crystal chalcedony, giving off a chilling aura. It has powerful water resistances and almost perfect physical defense. Stats: defense plus 1080, HP plus 900, strength plus 50, constitution plus 65, spirit plus 50, water resistance plus 40%, immunity to freeze, silence, and slow debuffs. When receiving damage, there is a 10% chance to completely negate the damage and a 5% chance to fully reflect the damage. Additional skills: Chilling Crystal Absolute Defense greatly increases the Chilling Crystal Battle Armor's defense for a certain period of time, and it greatly reduces all physical damage received. Effects: Chilling Crystal Battle Armor's defense plus 160%, lasting for 100 seconds. Cost 60 MP, cooldown time 10 minutes. Chilling Crystal Hell releases the boundless freezing air within the Chilling Crystal Battle Armor to send the surrounding enemies into a cold, icy hell. Effects: all targets within 10 meters have a 60% chance to be frozen for 5 seconds, and they will lose 20,000 HP per second while frozen. Cost 60 MP, cooldown time 10 minutes. Chilling Star Type, Knife, Grade, Heaven's End, Equipment Requirements, any profession above LV60. An Ice-type knife forged by the dwarves using the Chilling Crystal Chalcedony. It is small and light, and it gives off a bone-piercing cold aura. When fighting with enemies, it can cause enemies to be slowly devoured by the cold, but when holding it, the user will not feel any coldness. Stats: Physical attack power plus 1000, strength plus 50, constitution plus 10, agility plus 120, critical chance plus 25%, pierce chance plus 5%, attack speed plus 20, has a 5% chance to apply a 3-second frozen status when attacking. Bonus stats: Parry level 3. When attacking an enemy at close range, the enemy will be affected by the cold aura. Additional skills: Icy Elegance releases the chilling aura within the Chilling Star, turning all attacks into ice-type attacks and greatly increasing the chances of attacks applying a frozen status. Can be turned on and off at will. Chilling Star Cosmos completely releases the chilling energy within the Chilling Crystal Chalcedony, releasing icy light that flies towards enemies like meteors. The light releases massive damage upon touching enemies, and it instantly releases a thick layer of ice, freezing enemies completely. Effects: launches a single target attack within 30 meters, dealing 1000% damage after hitting the target and applying a frozen status for 5 seconds. Costs 150 MP, cooldown time 300 seconds. Wow! The girls cried out. These were both Heaven's End grade equipment. Even Ling Chen was completely shocked. To all players, 2 pieces of Heaven's End grade equipment was simply heaven-defying equipment. Even Ling Chen, who already had excellent equipment, only had 2 pieces of Heaven's End grade equipment so far. One was the Twilight Spear from the Mountain Giant, and the other was the Evil God's Mask from Xiao Fengshen. And right now, Dita had actually given him 2 pieces of LV-60 Heaven's End grade equipment. Just then, Ling Chen had slightly doubted the dwarves' talent. Why did it take them a whole month to forge 2 pieces of equipment? Now that they were both Heaven's End grade equipment, he couldn't help but marvel. To be able to create 2 pieces of Heaven's End grade equipment in merely a month, who else would be able to do it apart from the dwarves? Ling Chen equipped the chilling crystal battle armor and took off the Titan's embrace, and he held the chilling star in his hands. When others approached, they would feel a bone-piercing coldness, but in his hands, he didn't feel cold at all. This was the first knife Ling Chen had used in the Mystic Moon world, and it was the weapon he was most proficient with. Back at Hell, he had been extremely proficient with killing people using knives, and he had taken countless lives using them.
"Thank you, Elder Dita,"
Ling Chen said with gratitude. He understood that even for the dwarves with chilling crystal chalcedony, taking them a month to complete 2 pieces of Heaven's End grade equipment must have required great amounts of time and effort.
"Compared to what you've given us, this is nothing,"
Elder Dita said sincerely. Ling Chen came a bit closer to Elder Dita as he asked in a softer voice,
"Then the Underworld God Canon, how has progress been going?"
Elder Dita's expression became slightly grim as he said in shame,
"Our ancestors' wisdom makes us blush with shame. Although we have the blueprint, the Underworld God Mysterious Blood Metal, the White Tiger's Heart, the Vermilion Bird's Heart, and energy cores that people don't even dare to dream of, we're still investigating the profoundness of the Underworld God Canon. Perhaps if we see the real Underworld God Canon, we'll be able to greatly deepen our understanding. However, this is evidently impossible. As such, we just need more time. I'm sure that since our ancestors were able to build it, so will we. Do your best."
Ling Chen replied in a low voice. He didn't say anything like "don't worry" or "take your time," but he instead said "do your best." This is because he remembered the dangerous look in the Forgotten Emperor's eyes when he had left. Moreover, Ling Tian City's continuous development will definitely enrage the Forgotten City even more. If the Forgotten City truly retaliated, how could a player's city defend against a royal city? The reason Ling Chen had acted so arrogantly in response to the Forgotten Emperor's threats was because of the blueprint he had given to the dwarves. The Underworld God Cannon. Even Chi Yu had called it a god-killing cannon, and it was an ultimate weapon that even the Moon God clan feared.
Ghastly grounds. If Ling Chen continued towards the east, he would reach the Lonely Spirit Ridge where he had first met Shi Ling. If he kept going even further east, he would reach the Nameless Ridge where he had found the dwarves. He had come to this dangerous region many times, and each time he came, he felt quite rueful. The ghastly grounds was where Xiao Hui had found the Underworld entrance. After leaving Ling Tian City, Ling Chen had directly come to this place. Since he had made this decision, unless something incredibly important happened at Ling Tian City, he wouldn't be returning before he found the next orb. Moreover, if he truly entered the Underworld of the Legends, he wasn't sure if he would even be able to leave as he wished. However, the prerequisite was that he could enter. The first time he had met Qian Gun Gun, he had been told that the Underworld was a world of the dead, and that humans were unable to enter, though Qian Gun Gun was an exception. Not too long later, Ling Chen came to the place he remembered, and after clearing a large crowd of zombies, the dark and flat ground beneath his feet suddenly slid open as a black hole appeared in the ground. That's right, this was the entrance. Ling Chen did not hesitate and walked forwards, and then stepped into the entrance. He walked down a flight of steep steps, and soon he had descended completely into the ground.
Ding! You have entered the ghastly passageway. At the end of the ghastly passageway is the Underworld door connecting to the Underworld. The Underworld is a world of the dead, and any living creature that goes there will quickly lose their lives. At the same time, those with an aura of life will not be able to open the Underworld door. Please proceed with caution.
Ling Chen. After entering the passageway, it was completely dark in front of him without even a glimmer of light. Ling Chen came prepared, and he took out a small luminous pearl he had bought from the item shop, the white light it emitted allowing him to see roughly 5 meters around him. This was a narrow and long passageway. It was 2 or 3 meters tall, and it was less than 2 meters wide. Ling Chen summoned Xiao Hui and slowly advanced. The further in he walked, the more turbid the air became, and the heavy and suffocating feeling in his chest increased. This suffocating feeling, could it be -300, -300, -300? Looking at the red damage figures continuously rising above his head, Ling Chen frowned. He had continuously lost HP at the ghastly grounds because of the miasma, but that was only 50 HP per second. In here, it had increased to 300 HP per second. Xian Gun had said that the miasma from the ghastly grounds leaked from the underworld door. If it was already so terrifying outside the underworld door, just how bad would it be within the underworld itself? Ling Chen immediately cast away this thought and resolutely continued to advance. Because of Kai's powerful healing abilities, he would be able to easily withstand this sort of HP loss. However, Kai was a light-type creature, and this was a place of death, and it was a darkness-type environment which countered Kai. As such, he didn't dare to summon Kai in this sort of place, because she might be in even greater danger than him. -450, -450, -500, -500.
What?
As he advanced, Ling Chen's HP fell even faster, causing him to occasionally drink some dew of dawn. At this moment, Xiao Hui, who was scouting ahead, barked and stopped walking. Ling Chen also paused, and then walked slowly until he reached Xiao Hui's side. With the luminous pearl, he was able to see a tightly closed, large, dark door. Underworld door, a door to the underworld in one of the various places in the Forgotten Continent. The places it appears in always have a dense deathly aura, miasma, and low-level undead. Only medium to high-level undead can pass through the underworld door. When medium to high-level undead come close to the underworld door will automatically open. If new undead beings enter the underworld door, they will be sent to a safe region in the underworld. Underworld door, only medium to high-level undead could pass through. That meant that living beings couldn't open the underworld door. Ling Chen took a step forwards towards the underworld door and stretched out his hand, pressing it against the cold stone door. Because he was so close to the underworld door, a powerful suffocating feeling swept towards him, making him feel incredibly uncomfortable, and his HP loss rose to 1500 HP per second. However, no matter how hard he pushed the door, it would not budge or react at all. Ling Chen quickly took a few steps back and drank a drop of dew of dawn before he took a few deep breaths and was finally able to breathe properly again. He silently looked at the tightly closed underworld door, wondering how he could enter. Putting aside passing through the underworld and reaching the underworld blood lake, this underworld door was already a major issue. Now, Ling Chen desperately hoped that Xian Gun would suddenly pop out from there. As a living person, Xian Gun could freely enter and exit the underworld. He definitely had some sort of special method. If he could find Xian Gun, he would buy that method no matter how great a price he had to pay. However, meeting Xian Gun depended on luck, and he couldn't just meet him whenever he wanted to. Qi Yu had refused to leave Ling Chen's house, so he couldn't contact her immediately. Otherwise, perhaps she would know of a method to enter.
Ding! Your pet Langair is requesting to leave the pet space. Do you accept?
Langair? Why did she want to come out? Wait, that's right. Langair was an undead creature, so perhaps she would be comfortable in such an environment. Ling Chen did not refuse and summoned Langair. After Langair appeared, she did not turn to face Ling Chen, but she instead stared at the underworld door. She liked dark environments, and a faint black light danced within her abnormally dark eyes. Every time Ling Chen saw her eyes, he would feel as if he was looking at a boundlessly dark night. After a while, the half-spirit girl finally moved, and she tightly hugged the doll in her arms as she looked forwards and spoke in a gentle and hazy voice.
What a strange feeling!
The instant Lang'er appeared, the suffocating feeling and the HP loss that Ling Chen was experiencing suddenly disappeared. Even Xiaohui stopped losing HP every second. As he wondered what was going on, a system announcement sounded out.
Ding! Because of unknown reasons, when your pet Lang'er is summoned, all negative effects from the environment to you and your pets will be nullified. Because you are in an undead region, please keep your pet Lang'er summoned. Summoning Lang'er could give him immunity to the negative effects from the undead environment. Lang'er had such an ability. While shocked, Ling Chen was about to say something to Lang'er when a sound came from in front of him. Rumble. This rumbling evidently came from the underworld door in front of him. As Ling Chen watched on in shock, the tightly closed underworld door slowly opened. Soon, it was fully open, revealing a dark, foggy world.
Ding! Because of the influence from your pet Lang'er, the underworld door has been opened. While Lang'er is summoned, you will not be negatively affected by the undead aura, and you can safely enter the underworld. However, the underworld is the world of the undead, and living creatures will be in grave danger. Please proceed with caution.
It was open. The underworld door that he was just worrying about was open. Looking at the stone door, Ling Chen was so excited that he felt like picking up Lang'er and giving her a big kiss. It turned out that Lang'er being an undead creature had such a useful aspect. However, until the underworld door was open, Lang'er's gaze was fixed forwards, and when the dark world behind it was revealed, her dark pupils started to tremble. It was as if her body was attracted by something, and she slowly floated over.
Lang'er?
Ling Chen took a step forwards as he called out. Hearing Ling Chen's voice, Lang'er stopped and lightly turned to face him, her eyes looking quite hazy.
Master, I feel a familiar and warm feeling. I want to go inside.
Lang'er was a special type of undead creature, so perhaps the underworld was the best place for her and was something that attracted her. Ling Chen held Lang'er's small hand and said,
"Let's go inside together then."
After speaking, he breathed in and stepped through the underworld door, a large and small body vanishing within the boundless darkness. After passing through the underworld door, Ling Chen felt like he had been in the completely dark world for an extremely long time, and he closed his eyes. When he felt his surroundings settle, he opened his eyes and found that he was no longer in that completely dark world, and there was instead some faint light.
Ding! You have entered the special region Underworld. Since you are the first player to enter the Underworld, fame plus 900.
The ground was black, and the sky was completely gray and seemed extremely low, giving off a feeling of suppression. The entire world was dim and silent to the point that Ling Chen could almost hear his own heartbeat. Beside him, Lang'er stared with her lips parted as if she was shocked at what she saw. Ling Chen turned and looked at his surroundings. To the north, there were a few small mountains. To the south, there were rocks and stones. To the west, there were rows of damaged houses, looking like a ruined village. The system announcement told Ling Chen that when first entering the underworld, he would be sent to a safe region. Ling Chen had no idea where in the underworld this place was, or how he could reach the underworld Blood Lake. He also discovered a big problem. He and Lang'er had been sent here by the underworld door, but there were no transportation channels or other underworld doors here. How would he leave this place?
The location of the underworld Blood Lake. Ling Chen took out the Forgotten Continents map and looked over it, but he couldn't find anything related to the underworld. As such, he could only look around himself and walked towards the rundown houses. It looked like a ransacked village. There were tens of houses, and all of them were damaged and in need of repairs. The walls were jet black, and many of the walls were falling off. Weeds grew on the roofs, and most of the windows and doors were rotten. The small village was completely silent, and from the distance, light could only be seen in 3 or 4 of these houses. Tap, tap, tap. Because it was so quiet, Ling Chen's footsteps sounded extremely clear. After he took a few steps, he suddenly stopped because he realized the walking sounds weren't just coming from himself. Tap, tap, tap. Ahead of him, a dark figure appeared within his field of vision. Because it was too dark, Ling Chen was unable to see the person's facial features or what the person was wearing. He could only see that the person had a crooked back, had their head tilted to one side, and walked extremely slowly. Each step was so heavy that it seemed contained all of his body weight. Ling Chen frowned as he gripped the chilling star in his hand, walking towards the figure. When they were about 10 meters apart, Ling Chen was finally able to see the figure clearly. It was indeed a person. He wasn't short, but because of how hunched he was, he looked like he had some sort of illness. His footsteps were slow and heavy, and every step seemed to take all of his strength. He looked like an old man who barely had any strength. The clothes he was wearing made him look worse than a beggar, and there was no place on them that was clean or undamaged. They were no longer clothes, but rather rags that were barely held together. His face was also incredibly ashen, and it was so wrinkled that it looked like the exterior of a 100-year-old tree. His eyes were wide open, but they had no life in them. He stared forwards, not even looking at Ling Chen, who was so close to him. Even after passing each other, the person did not even look at Ling Chen. Ling Chen stopped walking and turned to look at the person. Was that a resident of the Underworld? Or an undead? He was quite similar to the zombies in the ghastly grounds. Moreover, undead were very sensitive to the aura of life and hated it, but this person did not react at all. Could it be that the deathly aura that Langer gave off covered his aura of life? That was the only explanation. Ahead of Ling Chen was a dimly lit room. There was a broken sign that had 2 crudely written words, Underworld Goods. Underworld Goods? Could this be? Ling Chen thought about it before he made up his mind and walked to the door, carefully stepping inside. Although he was entering a room, he did not feel any warmth. Instead, he felt a cold, eerie air. The room was less than 10 square meters, and it was just as dirty and messy as it was outside. The counter was made from rotting wood, and there was a small candle with a small, flickering flame on the counter. The undead could not see anything in absolute darkness, but they feared and hated light, so they only used a little bit of light to help them see. Behind the counter was an old man with an incredibly dark face and a body as thin as a skeleton's.
What do you want to buy?
When he saw Ling Chen enter, the old man's dead fish eyes flickered as he spoke in a voice that was as unpleasant as sandpaper grating against something. After speaking, the old man suddenly raised his head as a zombie-like face appeared in Ling Chen's sight.
What a dense deathly aura. This sort of deathly aura needs to have accumulated for more than thousands of years, or even 10,000 years. You are most likely a high-level undead, right? As a high-level undead, why are you not at the royal city? Why are you instead at a low-level place like this?
This elderly undead had a terrifying appearance and his voice was horrible to listen to, but his words made sense, and it seemed like his mind was like that of a normal human's. Ling Chen quickly thought of a response as he walked to the counter and said,
Hello, I just came here, and I'm not sure what you're talking about. Where are we right now? You just came? So that's why.
The elderly undead's hoarse voice sounded out.
No wonder why you're dressed so strangely. This is the Underworld, a place where dead creatures are gathered. Right now, you're in a low-level village that doesn't even have a name, where dead creatures are gathered. Does that mean that after people die, they'll come here?
Ling Chen asked.
No,
The elderly undead said as he moved his withered lips.
after living creatures die, they leave behind corpses. If corpses gather large amounts of deathly aura, they can be reanimated as undead. Low-level undead are like the zombies in those deathly environments, and they only have the ability to move and have very basic thinking. They do not have the right to enter the Underworld because the Underworld door will not open for them. If the deathly aura is incredibly dense, or if they've developed in those environments for a long time, or if the corpse still has large amounts of energy left after becoming an undead, they might develop more advanced thinking to the point that they have the same intelligence as living creatures. High-level undead's minds are exactly as if they were alive, and if they are strong enough, they can perhaps awaken some of the memories remaining in their bodies about their previous lives. Just like you have the deathly aura of a high-level undead. As such, you have high-level intelligence. The way you walk and speak are evidence of this.
The elderly undead's words caused a chill in Ling Chen's heart. He naturally knew about zombies. They were the most common form of undead. The ghastly grounds, which was right in front of the Underworld door, was filled with zombies. This was because the deathly aura was extremely strong, making it common for undead to spawn there. The elder undead's words made Ling Chen surprised him, so he asked,
According to your words, if high-level undead have intellect rivaling them when they were alive, wouldn't that just be like they hadn't died? And if they can access their memories, wouldn't that mean they had been revived? Like a second life?
The elderly undead rolled his eyes as he spoke in his hoarse voice.
You're too naive. The intelligence I'm talking about is limited to within the Underworld. This is because the Underworld has the densest deathly aura in the world and is a heaven for the undead. In here, the deathly aura within the undead is at its most active state, allowing the undead to have a clear mind. Otherwise, apart from very few apex-level undead, even high-level undead's minds will be scattered when they leave the Underworld, turning into mere zombies. As for regaining their memories from when they were alive, less than 10 have accomplished this over the past 10,000 years. That's about 1 in every 1,000 years. So it's like that.
Ling Chen nodded. This made much more sense. If the undead could remember what had happened during their lives, it would be akin to reviving. That would simply be too heaven-defying.
You're a high-level undead, yet you were not sent to the royal city but to here. Looks like your body was attracted by the Underworld door's deathly aura, and you came here through the Underworld door. After coming here, you slowly developed consciousness.
The elderly undead said stiffly.
That's right. I remember that I somehow passed through a place called the Underworld door. When I came to, I was near here,
Ling Chen said.
Half of the new undead in the Underworld were attracted by the 900 Underworld doors scattered throughout the Forgotten Continent, and the other half were found by the 900 Underworld King representatives. If they find any undead that are at least medium level, they are brought back to the Underworld. If they find any high-level undead, they are directly taken to the royal city. What sort of place is the royal city?
Ling Chen asked.
The Underworld Royal City is the place with the most high-level undead, and it is where the magnificent Underworld King lives. With your deathly aura, you definitely have the right to enter the Underworld Royal City. If you want to go there, perhaps this map will help you.
The elderly undead stretched out a withered hand and took out a burned paper scroll, throwing it to Ling Chen. Underworld map. A map that roughly lays out the Underworld's regions and localities. It is worth using as a reference. Although it was a map, it was incredibly crude. There were many lines messily drawn over each other, creating what looked like a main road. Twisted and messy words were written on various places on the map, labeling some of the places' names. However, it was still a map in the end, and receiving a map that he could use as a reference filled Ling Chen with delight. What made him even more surprised and happy was that this map also had a positioning function, which told Ling Chen that he was at the most northeastern point in the Underworld, while the Underworld Royal City was about 500 kilometers away at the exact center. The size of the Underworld naturally couldn't be compared to the Forgotten Continent, but it was still much larger than Ling Chen had expected. The Underworld Royal City was at the center of the Underworld, and it was where many high-level undead gathered. When Ling Chen was looking around the Underworld Royal City, his pupils suddenly contracted. Right above the Underworld Royal City on the map were 3 words written so small that they were almost imperceptible. Ling Chen brought the map closer to his eyes and read each of the words. Underworld, Blood, Lake. Underworld Blood Lake. Ling Chen couldn't help but call out. That place was why he had come here.
That's an incredibly terrifying place to us undead,
the elderly undead said expressionlessly.
And it's one of the 3 forbidden areas of the Underworld. Over the past 10,000 years, countless high-level undead were submerged in there, however, their power remaining in there. As such, that place is the place in the Underworld with the most deathly aura and the most energy. Only those who have the Lord Underworld King's permission can enter. Anyone else will be destroyed and also thrown into the Underworld Blood Lake. This is because at least 3 of the Underworld King's 8 generals stand guard there. Even if one passes through the entrance, one will need to pass through a fire purgatory and an ice purgatory to reach the Underworld Blood Lake. It's said that there's a powerful undead guardian beast that Lord Underworld King brought back many years ago sleeping there. All in all, forget that place and never go near it.
Heading to the Underworld Royal City, Ling Chen could only nod in response to what the elderly undead had just said, but he remembered where the Underworld Blood Lake was. He then looked through the things that were being sold in the shop. This was one of the most remote and rundown places in the Underworld, so Ling Chen didn't have high expectations. However, he was incredibly shocked from just a single glance. Underworld Coffee Bean, a coffee bean harvested from a coffee tree that was grown surrounded by deathly aura. It is incredibly bitter, and it can stimulate the consumer's hidden potential through this bitterness. Effects: after consuming, minus 100 HP for 30 seconds, and then gives 50 SP after 30 seconds. Effects cannot be stacked, and it needs to be completely swallowed in order to take effect. Price: 8 for 1 Underworld coin. Stock: 86,000. If bought in kilograms, a 15% discount is available. Underworld Stone, a stone that has absorbed large amounts of deathly aura due to existing in an environment filled with deathly aura for a long time. Can add a darkness attribute to equipment. Price: 1 for 2 Underworld coins. Stock: 65,560. If bought in tons, a 15% discount is available. Darkness Bat Egg can hatch a grade 5 Darkness Bat pet. Darkness bats are creatures that are commonly found in remote regions of the Underworld. Although they are not undead creatures, they like places with darkness and deathly aura, and they have darkness attacks. After growing, they have vampirism abilities and the ability to apply abnormal statuses. Price: 1 for 10 Underworld coins. Stock: 9,800. Soul-splitting thorn, created by cutting and refining a normal thorn that grew in an environment filled with deathly aura. It contains a berserk deathly aura, and it can be used for long-range attacks. However, it is useless against undead targets. Upon hitting a living creature, it will quickly devour its aura of life, instantly causing 5,000 basic darkness damage. Price: 1 for 20 Underworld coins. Stock: 28,000. If bought in baskets, a 15% discount is available. This incredibly shoddy shop only sold 4 things, but all four things were enough to cause Ling Chen to stare in shock. A coffee bean that could increase SP by 50. Such an item in the Forgotten Continent would be completely heaven-defying, yet it was being sold in kilograms. Stones that could give permanent attributes were sold in tons. Grade 5 pet. They were only a single grade below celestial grade and would be extremely rare in the China region, but they were being sold en masse here. There were even weapons that could instantly deal 5,000 damage, but what was most terrifying was that there were no prerequisites to using them. With this item, even a LV1 newbie would be able to insta-kill any player below LV50. This would completely destroy the balance of the game, and it shouldn't even exist. The things sold in the Underworld simply were not on the same level as the items sold on the surface of the Forgotten Continent. However, this currency. Underworld coins?
What are these Underworld coins?
Ling Chen raised his head and asked.
You can earn Underworld coins through labor. If you don't want to work, you can also take them from low-level undead, for example, those low-level walkers in the wilderness. As long as you have enough strength, you can legally steal and kill within the Underworld. The strong preying on the weak is the natural order here,
the elderly undead said with a stiff face. After Ling Tian City was built, the amount of gold that flooded in every day was an astronomical figure. Naturally, Ling Chen was ridiculously rich. However, it seemed like no matter how much gold he had, he wouldn't be able to spend any of it in the Underworld because they used Underworld coins here. Ling Chen did not have a single Underworld coin, so after looking around, he left the shop and walked around in this incredibly small village. The feeling of desolation and ruin was even eerier than that of a grave in the human world. He walked past a few undead, but they were all like the first undead he had met, and they did not even look at him as they unconsciously ambled forwards. This was most likely the norm for the Underworld's villages. Undead were undead. Low-level undead did not have human intelligence, so it was unlikely that they would live like humans. After taking out the crude map and glancing it over again, Ling Chen summoned Xiao Hui and confirmed the direction before he summoned Snow Cherry and started to fly towards the Underworld Blood Lake and the Underworld Royal City. After flying less than 3 kilometers, gray fog suddenly appeared ahead, greatly reducing the visibility. Ling Chen decreased Snow Cherry's flying speed as he looked below, and he saw figures slowly moving through the gray fog. Walker type, undead, level, LV50, HP, 7,000. The lowest type of humanoid undead. It has powerful attack power due to the death energy it possesses, but because of its low intellect, its judgment is extremely poor. Passive skills, extremely high attack power and defense, negates 70% of darkness element attacks. Attack style, swings its arm to heavily hit its target. Once hit, deals large amounts of damage and has a certain chance to apply a poison status. Weaknesses, fears fire element and light element attack, and has extremely slow movement speed. Within the gray fog, there were dark figures walking extremely slowly. Their skin was a shocking black color, and they were wearing incredibly tattered clothing. Most of their bodies had rotted away, and some even had eyeballs hanging out of their sockets. They were walking so slow that they would only take a step around once every 2 seconds. These were evidently the walkers that the elderly undead had referred to, and they were quite similar to the zombies outside the Underworld door. Although they were the lowest level type of humanoid undead in the Underworld, they were much higher level and much stronger than the zombies outside. Ling Chen thought for a moment before he and Snow Cherry shot down like a rocket. He gripped Chilling Star in his right hand and the Twilight Spear in his left hand, sending out 2 boundless desolations. Bang! 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 As the upgraded version of Ling Tian burst, Boundless Desolation not only dealt more damage, but it also now had a range of 10 meters and had more powerful shockwaves. With a boundless desolation on his left and right, the two arcs of energy mercilessly swept out, causing 10 or so of the walkers to horribly scream without even seeing what had hit them as they fell to the ground. Ding! Ling Chen seemed to hear something metallic fall to the ground. He came to the sides of the walkers that had fallen, and after looking for a while, he found two cold, gray coins that were similar to gold coins. Underworld coin, the currency used in the Underworld. It is unknown what material it is made of. After killing 13 walkers in an instant, he had obtained 2 Underworld coins. With Ling Chen's 28 luck, this drop rate was absurdly low. However, Ling Chen did not feel that this was too little because the prices in the shop in the village were incredibly low. A single Underworld coin could buy 8 Underworld coffee beans, which amounted to 400 SP in total. These 2 Underworld coins in Ling Chen's hands were worth 800 SP. This was a figure that could cause almost all players to go crazy. It was just that from the Underworld coffee beans description, they seemed to be very, very bitter. However, in order to obtain that 50 SP, bearing with that bitterness seemed worth it. That was what he had initially thought. Some time after, when he tried the Underworld coffee bean, he finally understood. That was why the cheap Underworld coffee bean gave so much SP for free. With the War God Profession's newly upgraded skills, as well as his 2 pieces of LV-60 Heaven's End grade equipment, Ling Chen's overall strength greatly increased. He could even easily insta-kill normal monsters that were 10 levels higher than him, let alone these walkers which were lower level than him. After casually clearing out a few waves of the walkers and collecting 10 or so Underworld coins, Ling Chen became quite bored and returned to the air, continuing towards the Underworld Royal City. He wanted to quickly reach the Underworld Blood Lake and find the orb. After all, that was his goal in coming to the Underworld. Lanier silently floated ahead of Ling Chen, her small feet lightly touching Snow Cherry's back. After entering the Underworld, Lanier had been incredibly calm and silent, not saying anything at all. She continuously stared ahead, as if she was looking for something. Evidently, this had to do with the Underworld. After all, Lanier was a type of special undead, so she probably felt like she had returned to where she belonged. After flying for 10 or so kilometers, everything Ling Chen had seen could be described as eerie, desolate, and murky. The entire Underworld seemed to permanently have a feeling of oppression and darkness, which seemed to be what the undead liked. At this moment, Lanier, who had been silent the entire time, came over and looked at Ling Chen as she spoke slowly in her tender voice.
Master story.
Ling Chen instantly felt a headache coming, telling stories, then even more stories. After being with Lanier for such a long time, he told Lanier a few stories every day as long as he was in the game. Lanier had obviously turned this into a routine, and her favorability towards him gradually increased. As such, he had told her almost all of the Grimm's fairy tales, Andersen's fairy tales, Mars Gravity's fairy tales, Mars Gravity stories, Mars Gravity complete works, etc. How could he have so many stories to tell her?
Wait.
There were still some fable stories.
All right.
Ling Chen immediately warmly and lovingly smiled.
I'll tell Lanier a fable today then. A fable?
Lanier, who had never heard of fables before, repeated the word in confusion. Ling Chen said in a serious tone,
Fables are a type of story used to explain a principle. Not only are they fun to listen to, but they can also teach Lanier all sorts of things. The first one is called Guarding a Tree Stump, Waiting for Rabbits.
Lanier blinked, eagerly listening. Ling Chen calmed himself down and started telling the story.
A long time ago, there was an uncle farmer. One day, he was plowing his fields when he suddenly saw a rabbit run over and crash into a tree stump, killing itself. The farmer picked up the dead rabbit and happily went home. From then onwards, the farmer stopped doing tiresome farm work and instead sat at the tree stump every day, hoping that more rabbits would run into it and kill themselves. In the end, he was rewarded with hemorrhoids after waiting 88 days.
Underworld Blood Lake 1, Linear.
The story tells us that we shouldn't sit for too long at the same place, otherwise we might develop hemorrhoids,
Ling Chen said earnestly.
What are hemorrhoids?
Linear asked with a confused look.
Hemorrhoids are, they're not good. Linear will know after she grows up,
Ling Chen said helplessly while scratching his head.
All right, forget about that one. I'll tell you a different fable. This one's called The Old Man Who Moved a Mountain.
The story goes like this. There was a man named Yugong. There were 2 large mountains in front of his house, making it so that his house never had any sunlight. As such, he started moving rocks every day to move those 2 mountains away. An old man called Jisoo laughed at him and said, "You idiot, these 2 mountains are too big. You'll never be able to finish moving them." In response, Yugong said, "After I die, there's still my son, and after my son, there's still my grandson. I'll have an innumerable number of descendants, who will one day move the 2 mountains away." This matter was spread quite far away until the Emperor of Heaven heard it. The Emperor of Heaven was very touched, so he sent Sola Aoi, Sakura Ria, Yui Hatano, Haim Kamaya, Maria Ozawa, Azusa Yamamoto, Yui Sito, and other goddesses to help Yugong give birth to descendants. The next day, the old man Jisoo also started to move rocks.
Linear.
This fable tells us that no matter what we do, we should be determined and resolute. Only by being determined will we have victory and hope, as well as the love of goddesses,
Ling Chen said in a deep tone. Linear still looked incredibly confused, and she said in a small voice,
"Those goddesses all have such strange names. Why did they help Yugong have descendants?"
This, that. Ling Chen sighed. It seemed that this fable was still too deep and wasn't understandable by kids. It seemed that he couldn't keep reading that book of fable stories. Wait, that book of fable stories seemed to be called Adult Fables. He should probably throw it away as soon as he got home.
Linear will also need to grow up to understand that one,
Ling Chen said in a complicated tone.
Fable stories aren't fun at all.
Linear shook her head in dissatisfaction.
I don't want to listen to fables anymore. Can Master tell me a better story?
A better story. A better story. Ling Chen gripped his hair as he gnashed his teeth. He had spent his younger years in a dim world, and he didn't know many stories. He had already told her all the ones he knew about. The book he read most recently was the Adult Fables, and he had enjoyed it immensely. However, now that he thought about it, it wasn't very suitable for kids. Ling Chen's eyes suddenly lit up as he smiled at Linear.
All right, I won't tell Linear any more fable stories then. How about an epic? An epic? That's right. They're usually quite long, and they take a few days to be told. They're much better than stories that are told very quickly,
Ling Chen said confidently as he patted his chest.
This story is called Romance of the 3 Kingdoms. I'm sure Linear will like this story.
In his younger years, Ling Chen did not have any close relatives, and all of the stories that Ling Chen knew were from Xianyuan Diawu. The Romance of the 3 Kingdoms was the first epic that Xianyuan Diawu had told Ling Chen. Although she was quite young at the time, she was incredibly intelligent and had a shocking memory. She told the entirety of the Romance of the 3 Kingdoms to Ling Chen perfectly. That story, full of its ups and downs, moving moments, and intense scenes and grandeur, was firmly imprinted in Ling Chen's mind, and he could now even remember every character and event. It would take him quite a long period of time to tell Linear the entire story. Linear lightly nodded and came closer to Ling Chen. Her snow-white hands were hugging the doll in front of her chest, and her face rested against the doll as she silently listened to Ling Chen talk.
This is how the story began. A long time ago, there was a dynasty called the Eastern Han Dynasty. At the end of the Eastern Han Dynasty, there was a useless emperor called Emperor Ling of Han, who caused the Yellow Turban Rebellion, sending the country into chaos.
1 day passed. 2 days passed. 3 days passed. The distance between the place Ling Chen was first transported to in the Underworld and the Underworld Royal City was 500 to 600 kilometers. With Snow Cherry's movement speed and the fact that they could avoid all of the undead on the ground, they should have arrived within 2 days. However, because the light in the Underworld was quite dim and the ground was covered by a gray fog, it made it difficult to navigate and greatly reduced their speed. Moreover, after Ling Chen started telling Lang'er the story of the romance of the Three Kingdoms, she was completely hooked, and she would ask him to continue telling her the story whenever he logged on. If he stopped for even a bit, she would pout, looking incredibly wronged. As such, Ling Chen would spend almost all of his time telling the story to her. Often, he would lose himself in the storytelling, and when he came back to his senses and called out Xiao Hui to point out the way, he would find out that they had been off by 90 degrees or so, and sometimes have to completely turn around. Under these circumstances, Ling Chen finally reached the Underworld Central region after 3 days, and he went closer and closer to the Underworld Royal City. As Ling Chen flew from the northeast to the center of the Underworld, Ling Chen felt that the more towards the southwest they flew, the hotter it became. In the northeast, the air was quite cold and sinister, but here the air felt slightly hot. What made Ling Chen quite confused was that undead didn't normally like hot environments. Ling Chen looked towards the west and found that the sky towards the west was covered with a faint red glow. Although it was mostly covered by the deathly gray aura of the Underworld, Ling Chen's eyes were perceptive enough to pick up on it. However, the confusion within Ling Chen's heart did not affect his storytelling. After Zhao Zi long battled ruthlessly in the Battle of Changban, he successfully broke through the encirclement with Fatty Lu. When he reached the bridge, he ran into Zhang Yide, who yelled out, "Zi Long, hurry and go. Leave the rest to me." After Zhao Zi Long safely left, Zhang Yide mightily stood in front of the bridge, facing Cao Cao's million-man army by himself. When Cao Cao's army came to the bridge, Zhang Yide wielded his viper halberd as he roared, "Yin country's Zhang Fei is here. Who dares to come and fight to the death?" His voice was as loud as thunder, causing the wooden bridge to crumble and the water to flow the opposite way. Cao Cao was so scared that he turned and ran, while Xiahou Jia was so scared that he fell off his horse and died. The million-man army subsequently turned around and fled in terror. Ling Chen's narrative paused there, because he saw a gigantic figure giving off immense pressure through the gray fog. The Underworld Royal City. Ling Chen's mind instantly felt refreshed. After traveling for 2.5 days, he had finally reached the central city of the Underworld. Reaching this place meant that he was incredibly close to his final destination, the Underworld Blood Lake. And then, Lang'er, who was left at a cliffhanger, wasn't happy that Ling Chen had suddenly stopped, and she shook his arm as she tried to get him to continue. Now that they were so close to the Underworld Royal City, Ling Chen was no longer in the mood to tell Lang'er stories, so he casually finished. Then because Zhang Yide purposefully destroyed public property, he was restrained by the Public Security Bureau. That's the end of the romance of the Three Kingdoms. It was good, right? Ah. Lang'er, look, there's a city over there. Lang'er's eyes instantly started becoming red. Ling Chen hurriedly waved his hands as he tried to salvage the situation. Don't be angry, Lang'er. Don't be angry. I was just joking just then. There's still a lot left of the story, and the ending definitely wasn't like that.
I'll keep telling Ling the story tomorrow, okay? We need to do something important today.
However, Ling was quite obedient and well-behaved. She didn't continue nagging Ling Chen to tell her the story, but she instead turned and looked towards the Underworld royal city. While silent, her dark eyes started to become hazy. She felt that within her half-spirit body something started to jump and beat. The Underworld royal city was the Underworld's central city, similar to the Forgotten Continent's Forgotten City. However, although it was the central city, the Underworld royal city was also quite rundown and didn't have the splendor of a capital city. Instead, it only gave a feeling of gloominess and suppression. Standing quite far away from the entrance, Ling Chen saw undead warriors standing guard. The Underworld was a secret place in the Mystic Moon world, and it wasn't somewhere players could casually go. He had only been able to easily enter because of Ling Chen. Since he had come, he should at least take a look around the Underworld royal city. Perhaps he could receive some sort of hidden quest and get something that he couldn't obtain in the outside world. However, the Underworld royal city was where the high-level undead gathered. They all had powerful undead energy and intelligence that was no less inferior than normal humans. Ling Chen was a player, and while his aura of life would not be detected in low-level places, this was the royal city filled with high-level undead, so Ling Chen wasn't completely confident that he wouldn't be discovered. Once it was discovered that he was a living human, the consequences were easily imaginable. After thinking about it for a while, Ling Chen ultimately decided to pass on entering the Underworld royal city and took to the skies once again, flying towards the Underworld Blood Lake. His goal was to go to the Underworld Blood Lake to find an orb, not to adventure around. It was better safe than sorry. The Underworld Blood Lake was north of the Underworld royal city, and it was less than 10 kilometers away from the Underworld royal city's northern gate. However, Ling Chen had no idea just what the Underworld Blood Lake looked like. As such, Ling Chen could only fly slowly and look down, searching for the Underworld Blood Lake. As he flew further and further from the Underworld royal city, there were less and less undead. After about 15 minutes, a single high-level undead warrior unhurriedly walked past below Ling Chen. Ling Chen's eyebrows jumped as he quickly descended and landed in front of the undead warrior, giving him a big fright. The undead warrior subconsciously leapt back, and at that moment, Ling Chen's eyes flashed, activating a deity curse. Ding! The Libra Orb's effects have been activated. Deity curse, as cooldown time has been reset. Underworld Blood Lake 2. The shock and fear in the undead warrior's eyes turned into a stunned look, and then became one of excitement and passion. The intensity of its emotions rivaled those of a human's, and he looked up at Ling Chen as if he was a god. Oh heavens, what have I seen? There are still such mighty undead in the Underworld. Your Majesty surpasses even the great Underworld King. Then can you tell me where the Underworld Blood Lake is?
Ling Chen calmly asked. The Fengchen curses worked on all humanoids whether they were alive or dead.
Underworld Blood Lake, it's about 2 kilometers north from here. I just came from the Underworld Blood Lake, and I was going back to the Underworld Royal City to complete the task that Lord Violet Darkness gave me,
the undead warrior said without hesitation.
So you're one of the warriors who guard the Underworld Blood Lake?
Ling Chen asked as he looked at his appearance.
Indeed. This is a glorious yet dull task, because no one dares to trespass into the Underworld Blood Lake, nor has anyone ever succeeded. With just the 3 Underworld gods standing guard, the Underworld Blood Lake is a place where no one can enter. With the 3 Underworld gods, we're just decorations. 3 Underworld gods?
Ling Chen frowned. He remembered that the elderly undead in this small village had said that the Underworld King had 8 generals, so he asked,
Are they 3 out of the 8 generals? That's right. They are the 8 Underworld gods, whose underworld power is inferior to only that of Lord Underworld kings, and they are his most powerful generals. The 8 underworld gods take turns guarding the entrance to the underworld blood lake, and there are always at least 3 standing guard, the underworld warrior said with an expression of worship. 8 underworld gods. Undead that were only weaker than the underworld king. According to what Chi Yu had said before, the underworld king was the same grade as the 3 moon goddesses, who were Saint Destroyer grade, and he was at the peak of the Saint Destroyer grade. If those 8 underworld gods were only weaker than the underworld king, they were definitely just as terrifying, and they wouldn't be lower than Heaven's End grade. In fact, it was possible that they were Mysterious God grade or higher. With 3 of the 8 underworld gods guarding the entrance to the underworld blood lake, wanting to break through by force was simply a pipe dream. Apart from the 3 underworld gods, are there any other obstructions in the way of reaching the underworld blood lake? Ling Chen stealthily unleashed his second deity curse as he asked. If it was any other undead asking these questions, this undead warrior would have been filled with suspicion. However, facing a god, it evidently did not hold itself back as it unhesitatingly answered. The underworld blood lake is in the innermost region of the underworld, and after going down from the entrance, one will need to pass through the horrifying path of shadows, path of darkness, and the even more terrifying Ice Purgatory and Flames Purgatory. Path of shadows, path of darkness, Ice Purgatory, Flames Purgatory. Ling Chen committed those names to memory and quickly asked, "What's inside all of this?" I haven't been inside before, but I've often heard Lord Violet Darkness say that the Path of Shadows is a soul-reaping formation laid down by the Lord Underworld King himself. After entering the Path of Shadows, no matter if it's living creatures or the undead, massive amounts of their life force and magic power will be sucked away every second, and passing through the Path of Shadows takes a few hours. Because the soul-reaping formation was laid down by Lord Underworld King himself, even high-level undead will not be able to pass even 1% before dying. It is completely dark in the Path of Darkness, and there are many vampiric undead in there. Once one enters, one will be torn into shreds by the vampiric undead without having even a chance to struggle. Comparatively speaking, the Ice Purgatory and Flames Purgatory are the truly terrifying places. I've heard that the Ice Purgatory is incredibly cold, but the temperature is not the worst thing. There are 3 giant undead beasts raised by Lord Underworld King, and it's said that they've been there for thousands of years. Every one of them are incredibly powerful, and they've completely blocked off the exit of the Ice Purgatory. It's said that only by killing all 3 of the giant undead monsters will one be able to exit. The Flames Purgatory has flames that we undead fear, and there's a being that's even more terrifying than the 3 undead monsters in the Ice Purgatory. Back then, when Lord Violet Darkness talked about it, even he seemed scared. As such, even without the 3 underworld gods standing guard there, it's impossible to reach the underworld blood lake. There's only one way to reach the underworld blood lake, and that is to receive the approval of the Lord Underworld King, and be sent there through the spatial tunnel that only he can open. However, those who can gain the Lord Underworld King's favor and be sent to the Underworld Blood Lake to absorb the ancestors' power might not even appear once in 1,000 years. Ling Chen frowned. From what this undead warrior had said, reaching the Underworld Blood Lake would be as difficult as scaling the heavens. However, since he had come here, he had to try to charge through even if it was as difficult as scaling the heavens. The deity curse was about to end, so without saying anything, Ling Chen immediately used Vanishing Shadow and disappeared from before the undead warrior. The undead warrior, who was no longer under the effects of the deity curse, looked around in front of him, feeling incredibly confused and wondering if he was just hallucinating. Ling Chen passed 2 kilometers to the north, and a dark, altar-like structure appeared in front of him. There seemed to be a strange, dark red light flickering on the altar, and there were many figures around it. Ling Chen stopped advancing and frowned as he looked ahead. That should be where the Underworld Blood Lake was. After descending from the sky, Ling Chen called back Snow Cherry and walked softly as he gradually approached. With 3 powerful underworld gods standing guard, it would be incredibly easy to be noticed from the air. Ling Chen was an expert among experts at concealing his presence. As he stealthily advanced, he gradually came within 100 meters of the altar and stopped. He hid behind a large rock and poked his head out, looking towards the altar. The altar wasn't very large, and its perimeter was about 30 to 40 meters long. There were 30 undead warriors wearing old and rusty armor standing in a circle around it, looking in different directions with serious expressions. There were also 3 tall men wearing large capes standing around the altar. As soon as Ling Chen's gaze fell on them, he felt an incredible pressure from them. With Ling Chen's current strength, celestial-grade bosses were no longer able to threaten him, and even normal Heaven's End-grade bosses couldn't make him feel much pressure. Yet, each of these 3 people made Ling Chen's heart feel heavy, making it difficult for him to breathe. There were very few beings in the Mystic Moon world that could make him feel such a way. The ones he had met in the past were the War Demon Beast, Darkness Demon Beast, Ice Demon Beast, Vermilion Bird. In other words, all 3 of these men were mysterious god grade. Any one of them was in existence that Ling Chen couldn't hope to defeat. These 3 men were evidently 3 out of the 8 underworld gods. Just the Path of Shadows, Path of Darkness, Ice Purgatory, and Flames Purgatory were enough to make reaching the Underworld Blood Lake as difficult as scaling the heavens, yet the Underworld King had ordered 3 of the 8 underworld gods to take turns standing guard. It was evident just how important the Underworld Blood Lake was, and he simply wouldn't allow anything to happen to it. Although nobody had ever trespassed into the Underworld Blood Lake, these 3 underworld gods didn't seem complacent at all. They stood at equal distances from each other, giving off vicious airs. Although Ling Chen was tens of meters away from them, his entire body felt cold, and his breathing became ragged. Ling Chen silently summoned Xiao Hui and obtained information from far away. Red Darkness, Type, Undead, Level, Grade, Mysterious God, HP. One of the 8 underworld gods, unable to obtain any other information. Violet Darkness, Type, Undead, Level, Grade, Mysterious God, HP. One of the 8 underworld gods, unable to obtain any other information. Black Darkness, Type, Undead, Level, Grade, Mysterious God, HP. One of the 8 underworld gods, unable to obtain any other information. The 3 underworld gods' levels were too high, and with Xiao Hui's Eye of the Holy Spirit, Ling Chen only found out their names and grades. Just like Ling Chen had expected, all 3 of them were Mysterious God grade. Wanting to charge through 3 Mysterious God grade underworld gods was simply a pipe dream. Since he couldn't force his way through, he had to use some tricks such as Ling Chen suppressed his aura and soundlessly advanced until he was about 50 meters away from the platform. After stabilizing his emotions, he turned to the altar and looked at the 3 silent underworld gods as his eyes flashed, casting a irreconcilable hatred curse towards them. Back at the East Ocean continent, when Ling Chen was only around LV-30, even the low-tier Feng Chen curses were effective on the Cherry Blossom God representative. Ling Chen was now much more powerful, and he released an intermediate-tier Feng Chen curse on the unsuspecting underworld gods, so there was no reason for it to fail. Ling Chen was not disappointed, and a second later, the silent underworld gods opened their eyes and turned around, looking at each other with burning gazes. Black Darkness, what are you looking at? You dare to look at me? I'll kill you. You'll kill me? I'll kill you. Even 3,000 years ago, I wanted to send you to the 18th layer of hell. Red Darkness, you bastard. You dare to wear a red cape? I'll kill you today." Bang! The originally silent underworld gods suddenly started to roar at each other, and a cold and berserk gust of wind started to blow as their terrifying killing intent billowed out. The undead warriors, who had no idea what was happening, stared in horror, looking at the underworld gods, who had been incredibly peaceful just a second ago and were now threatening to kill each other.
"Today, either you or I will die."
Roars of rage sounded out as the eyes of the three underworld gods became blood-red and rushed towards each other as they emitted murderous airs. They were completely under the influence of the irreconcilable hatred curse, but they had not completely lost their rationality. They were merely incredibly vengeful towards each other, but they wouldn't forget their duty to protect the underworld blood lake. With their mysterious god-grade power, they would inevitably damage the entrance to the underworld blood lake if they started fighting here. As such, they rose into the air and shot like 3 arrows towards the distance, the air from their ascension knocking the undead warriors to the ground. Following this, thunder-like booms sounded out from the distance. The undead warriors on the ground stared into the distance, all of them in a daze. None of them noticed a transparent figure stealthily creeping towards the entrance they were supposed to be guarding. The 3 underworld gods were too powerful, and Ling Chen wasn't completely confident that even he could pass unnoticed with Vanishing Shadow. However, he was certain he could get past these undead warriors. He swaggered onto the altar until he reached the center, and then he saw a hole that was about 1 meter wide. Without even thinking about it, he jumped in.
Path of Shadows. It was as if Ling Chen had jumped into a bottomless, dark chasm. As he quickly fell, the light completely disappeared. The sound of wind passing by howled in his ears, and Ling Chen activated the Feng Chen technique, slowing down his descent. Gradually, he stopped falling until he was hovering in the air. Ling Chen took out a luminous pearl, using the faint light to look around the dark space, and found that he was simply in a dark hole. Ling Chen summoned Snow Cherry and Xiao Hui, and then he slowly descended onto Snow Cherry's back. If everything was as he expected, this should be the starting point to the underworld blood lake. Regardless, since he had come here, there was no turning back. No matter what was ahead, he had to break through. The underworld blood lake was at the lowest point in the underworld, and it was far below the surface. Although Ling Chen already knew this, the depth caused him to be quite surprised. After descending for 15 minutes, he still could not see the bottom. Although his descent wasn't very fast, he must have descended at least 3 kilometers. This was almost as deep as the Pacific Ocean, which made him incredibly shocked. At this moment, Xiao Hui, who had been silent the entire time, barked in warning. Ling Chen immediately gave the order to stop descending, and he detected that they were nearly at the bottom from the change in airflow. However, Xiao Hui's bark wasn't warning him that they had nearly reached the bottom, but rather that there was something dangerous down there. Just as Ling Chen stopped, information was transmitted into his mind from Xiao Hui's Eye of the Holy Spirit, Underworld Soul-Reaping Formation, a devouring formation laid down by the Underworld King within the Path of Shadows, to prevent anyone from reaching the forbidden area, the Underworld Blood Lake. It has an incredibly powerful soul-reaping effect, and once living creatures or undead go within the formation, their life force and magic power will be consumed until there's nothing left. Soul-reaping formation. This was the one that the undead warrior had told him about. This meant that below was the Path of Shadows that he had to pass through in order to reach the Underworld Blood Lake. According to the undead warrior, the Path of Shadows was incredibly long, and it would take a few hours at a normal speed. Moreover, this soul-reaping formation covered the entire Path of Shadows, which meant that he would have to stay within the soul-reaping formation for a few hours. Ling Chen took out the luminous pearl and used the faint white light to look below him. There was an entrance flickering with a strange gray light. 3 words were scrawled above the entrance: path of shadows. Without hesitating, Ling Chen quickly descended. As he reached the gray entrance, his feet finally landed on the cold, hard, and dark floor. He put his arms around Ling'er in front of him as he rode on Snow Cherry and stepped into the path of shadows. SSS. The instant Snow Cherry's paws stepped into the path of shadows, Ling Chen felt an incredibly strong suction from below, which brought with it a bone-chilling coldness and eeriness, causing Ling Chen to shudder. Minus 10,000, minus 10,000, minus 10,000, minus 10,000. The red and blue figures above his head gave Ling Chen a great shock. The red figure represented his HP being lost, while the blue figure represented his MP being lost. Every second, the soul-reaping formation stole 10,000 HP and MP from him. With Kai'er's, Nature's Heart, Ling Chen and all of his pets' HP and MP were increased by 60%, and Ling Chen currently had 270 HP. To players, this was boss-level HP, but he would only last a mere 3 seconds in the Path of Shadows. At this rate, even with the Dew of Dawn, which was the most powerful potion he had, as well as the Fairy's Blessing Earrings, he wouldn't be able to keep up with the loss. Ling Chen hurriedly retreated from the Path of Shadows, stopping the drain to his HP and MP. After looking at his HP and MP, both of which had been greatly decreased, he felt at his wit's end. 10,000 per second meant 600,000 per minute, 36 million per hour, and a few hours, let alone a player who was not even LV60. Even a LV60 mysterious god-grade boss would not be able to survive. When facing this Underworld soul-reaping formation, it doesn't matter how powerful one was. There was only one way to pass through the Underworld soul-reaping formation, which was to recover one's HP faster than the formation could absorb. The MP loss didn't matter, but it was impossible for players to recover more than 10,000 HP per second. After all, Ling Chen had never encountered a potion that had more powerful effects than the Dew of Dawn. Ling Chen tightly frowned and looked at Ling'er when he suddenly thought of something. From this Underworld soul-reaping formation, as description, no matter if it was living creatures or undead, their HP and MP would be forcibly absorbed. However, when they had entered, only he had been affected, while Ling'er had been completely fine. This was because if Ling'er was affected by the Underworld soul-reaping formation, the damage she took would be transferred to Ling Chen because of their soul sacrifice contract, meaning he would lose twice as much HP and MP. However, he had only lost HP and MP once per second. Could it have to do with Ling'er's body's constitution? This thought flashed in his mind, as Ling Chen suddenly knocked on his forehead. Goddamn! How could he have forgotten the little fairy who he had just obtained?
Kai'er, hurry and come out!
A white light flashed as a small fairy girl appeared before him. She beat her wings as she stretched.
Wow! I'm finally out! It was so boring in that strange place. Luckily Shi Ling was there to play with me.
Following that, the little fairy suddenly became angry as she looked at Ling Chen in displeasure, her lips pouting.
Big brother, it's so unfair. Why haven't you called me out to play for such a long time? You take Ling'er out to play and tell Ling'er stories every day. You're so biased.
What is this place? Why is it so dark and smelly? Ling Chen's mouth twitched as he helplessly said,
Because this place is the Underworld and contains the power of death and darkness, which is completely at odds with your element and power. I was sure you would hate this place and could be harmed by the environment, so I didn't want to call you out. Underworld?
Kai'er sniffed around her and tapped a finger against her mouth as she said in a small voice,
I think I've heard Granny talk about this place before. Granny said that it's an incredibly scary place, and she said that it'd be incredibly easy for us to die if us fairies came here. Ugh, apart from being very dark and smelly, it doesn't seem that scary. That's because we have Linger protecting us, so the deathly aura isn't able to harm us.
Ling Chen explained before he pointed ahead of them.
Kair, the path in front of us is very dangerous, and it will quickly devour our life force, so I need you to continuously use Nature's Light to recover HP for me and Xiao Hui. Can you do that? Oh, got it.
Kai
Er immediately nodded and added,
Can I sing? I like singing more.
Kair was referring to Song of Healing, Drizzle at the Light of Dawn, which recovered 20% HP and 20% MP every second. This skill, which recovered not only HP but MP as well, would have been super powerful under normal circumstances. However, in the face of the Underworld Soul Reaping formation, it simply wasn't enough.
If you want to sing, you can sing while you use Nature's Light,
Ling Chen said. It should be possible for Kair to use normal skills while she sang.
Okay.
Kair, who had been incredibly bored in the pet space, eagerly nodded. She closed her eyes as she started to sing with her sweet and cute voice.
The sky is blue, the wind is blowing. The beautiful flowers are blossoming.
Dew is falling, the tree's shade is swaying, receiving the early morning's beautiful sunlight.
The birds in the trees are singing, the bugs in the grass are stretching.
We spread the wings of the dawn and are being bathed in the nature goddess light.
When Ling Chen had first met Kair, she had been happily singing. As Kair sang, her voice sounded just as beautiful and refreshing. At the same time, he felt as if his body was basking in sunlight, and he felt incredibly warm and pleasant. As Kair sang, she spread out her hands as a pure white light, with a tinge of green, fell around her. Plus 64,350, plus 8,507, plus 8,507, plus 8,507, plus 8,507, plus 64,350, plus 8,507, plus 8,507. The white light from Nature's Light, combined with the Song of Healing, quickly restored Ling Chen's HP as two red and a blue figure appeared above Ling Chen's head. The Nature's Light restored HP equivalent to 3 times Kair's magic attack power and added on her Nature's Blessing passive ability, boosting all healing abilities by 50%. Adding on the Fairy's Blessing, which gave an increased 30% recovery. With Kair's current 11,000 magic attack power, the recovery from Nature's Light was simply shocking, healing Ling Chen for twice his maximum HP. Moreover, the Nature's Light's cooldown time was incredibly short, only 1 second. This meant that Kair could use Nature's Light every 2 seconds. Kair's own recovery rate was already absurd, recovering 90% HP and 90% MP every second. With that sort of recovery, unless she lost more than 90% of her health in an instant, she would instantly return to full health in the next second, and she had almost unlimited MP. Although the Underworld Soul Reaping formation was quite terrifying, it didn't matter at all to her because of her incredible recovery. Ling Chen was delighted and didn't have to worry anymore. He brought Kair onto Snow Cherry's back and charged forwards into the Underworld Soul Reaping formation. Minus 10,000, minus 10,000, plus 64,350, plus 8,507, plus 8,507, minus 10,000, minus 10,000, plus 8,507, plus 8,507. Minus 10,000, minus 10,000, plus 64,350, plus 8,507, plus 8,507, minus 10,000, minus 10,000, plus 8,507, plus 8,507. The cold suction force came from below, stealing Ling Chen, Kair, and Xiao Hui's HP and MP different colored figures rose above Ling Chen's head chaotically, but with Kai'er singing, they were continuously bathed in pure light of nature, and his HP remained almost full the entire time. Even the bone-piercing coldness and eeriness was greatly decreased. Currently, without any skills, Snow Cherry's movement speed when mounted was 425. 3 hours later, with a bark from Xiao Hui, they arrived at the exit of the Path of Shadows. With Kai'er's incredibly powerful healing abilities, this terrifying soul-reaping path was just a normal path to Ling Chen, and they had passed through it easily. He had almost fallen asleep with the little fairy in his arms. Holding the luminous pearl up, Ling Chen slowly stepped out of the Path of Shadows, and the suction force below them disappeared. In front of him was another dark entrance, where 3 words were scrawled. Path of Shadows. According to the undead warrior, this was where countless vampiric undead were residing. Path of Darkness. If there was just a large crowd of vampiric undead, Ling Chen wouldn't have to be worried. With his powerful attacks, survival skills, and peerless battle sense, what he was least worried about was obstruction from monsters. Even max-level normal monsters would be no problem for him. Even if he couldn't beat them, he'd just use a broken shadow to get past them. Getting past monsters was much easier than getting past things like the Underworld soul-reaping formation. This was what Ling Chen thought as he equipped his weapons and entered the Path of Darkness. The place indeed lived up to its name. The instant Ling Chen entered, the dark region became even darker until it became an almost solid wall of blackness. It was also incredibly silent here, and there wasn't even a trace of sound. However, this silence only lasted for half a second when countless dangerous auras approached, accompanied by the sounds of things rushing at him. At the same time, tens of pieces of information flooded into Ling Chen's mind from Xiao Hui. Demon bats, type, undead, level, LV 62, HP, 11,000. A type of terrifying bat that loves darkness and deathly aura. They are quite small, but they are as fast as lightning and have a berserk thirst for blood. They target both living creatures and undead for blood. Passive abilities: incredibly fast and have high evasion, darkness resistance, 80%. Attack skills: Vampiric Fang uses its sharp and icy fangs to bite its target, dealing damage while also recovering that amount of damage. Demon Soundwave unleashes a terrifying soundwave, dealing damage to all targets within 5 meters. Deals a small amount of damage, but has a 15% chance of causing a 3-second stun. Weaknesses: Light resistance, -100%, fire resistance, -50%, has a weak life force, and when hit by an arrow-type attack, the chance of dealing a critical hit is doubled. Undead Slicer, type, undead, level, LV 65, HP, 21,050. Uses a gigantic darkness scythe and hovers around in dark regions. Its hobby is to cut a complete body into countless fragments. Passive abilities: negates 60% of physical attack damage, darkness resistance, 80%. Attack skills: Soul-Crushing Crucifix uses the darkness scythe to instantly attack a target vertically and horizontally, dealing a massive amount of damage, and it has a 15% to deal a critical hit. Weaknesses: Light resistance, -100%, fire resistance, -50%, attack speed is fairly slow. Soul-Devouring Imp. Headless Horseman. 30 or so types of undead's information appeared in Ling Chen's mind, and he had almost no time to process this information because those dangerous auras were now just inches away from him. He swung the Twilight Spear in Chilling Star, quickly sending out 2, Boundless Desolation. Bang 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 bang. 2 massive arcs of energy swept out from Ling Chen, and from the number of impacts that there were, it was almost impossible for Ling Chen to tell how many targets those 2 attacks had hit. However, What he could confirm was that, after Ling Tian Burst was upgraded into Boundless Desolation, he had never hit so many targets with it before. When launching the two Boundless Desolations towards opposite directions, the two arcs completely cleared out the space to Ling Chen's left and right. However, it didn't include above him. After attacking with the Boundless Desolations, cold auras slammed into his body before Ling Chen could attack again, bringing about piercing pain. -1980, -2042, -1999, -1874, -2002. 10 or so damage figures rose above Ling Chen's head, causing his HP to instantly fall by around half. At the same time, Kair cried out beside him. Within the darkness, the large red figures were incredibly eye-catching. Because Xiaohui did not draw any aggro from monsters, he was not attacked. Ling Chen did not hesitate and waved his right hand, activating Moon Shadow. The instant the silver light shone out, everything around him was fixed in place. With the light from Moon Shadow, Ling Chen was able to see everything around him. In the next second, all of the hairs on his body stood on end. In front of him were countless undead monsters that looked like they were being blown away by his boundless desolations, while 10 meters away the sheer number of dark figures looked like there was a massive wave coming towards him. They were shaped in all sorts of ways, and they all had savage expressions, giving off bloodthirsty auras. They were pressed incredibly close to each other without even a gap between them. At a glance, he simply couldn't see where this sea of monsters ended. In the air, there was a massive, dark blanket of demon bats. They were simply innumerable. Just right above Ling Chen's head, there were tens of demon bats poised to dive at him, their mouths wide open. Kair cried out in fear, and hid behind Ling Chen with a whoosh, her small face completely pale. Cold sweat broke out on Ling Chen's forehead. He was completely certain that a normal player would have wet their pants from such a sight. He knew that there would be many vampiric undead here, but this was too goddamn much. Ling Chen had never seen so many monsters gathered so closely together in his life. Moon Shadow's effects were about to end, and the instant it ended, the demon bats above him were enough to end his life. His attacks could clear out everything to his sides, but then he would be vulnerable from above. If he defended those coming from above, then he would be overwhelmed from the sides. This was so even for the war god profession's ultimate skill, 8-direction annihilation.
Shi Ling!
Just as Moon Shadow was about to vanish, Ling Chen summoned Shi Ling. This was because Shi Ling was too susceptible to dying, so Ling Chen didn't want to summon her in an environment that he knew nothing about. If he had summoned Shi Ling in the Path of Shadows before, the HP the formation absorbed every second would be enough to insta-kill Shi Ling. Even if Kair's healing abilities were 100 times more powerful, it would be useless. However, facing these incredibly densely packed monsters, Shi Ling would be perfect for dealing with them. A red light flashed, and the instant Shi Ling appeared, Moon Shadow's effects ended. Waves of crimson flames descended as a bird's cry sounded out. No matter if it was the vampiric undead on the ground or the demon bats in the air, all of them were enveloped by the heaven-burning flames. -482,400, -482,400, -482,400. Shi Ling's flames were already monstrous enough, and adding on the fact that they were the weakness of the undead, the flames dealt 6-figure damage figures to the undead monsters. They were enough to kill the LV-60 monsters 10 times over. All monsters within 50 meters were instantly cleared out, and countless Underworld coins fell from the demon bats, noisily falling onto the ground. Xiaohui rushed up and busily collected them.
Wow! Shi Ling's so strong!
Kair poked her head out from behind Ling Chen and looked at Shi Ling in the air before she cried out.
Ah! They're coming again!
The area that Shi Ling's heaven-burning flames covered became a vacuum. However, another dark mass of vampiric undead charged over in just the blink of an eye. This was especially for the demon bats. They were truly as fast as lightning and traveled 50 meters in just the blink of an eye, biting towards Ling Chen and Shi Ling. If Shi Ling's heaven-burning flames could be continuously released, there would be no danger to them at all, even if there were twice as many monsters. However, Shi Ling's heaven-burning flames had a 5-second cooldown time. The other AoE skills also had relatively long cooldown times. Vermilion Judgment had a cooldown time of 30 seconds, while Burning Fire Array had a cooldown time of 2 hours. Normal flames could only cover an area of 10 meters. This sort of AoE wasn't small at all, but considering how many monsters there were and how quickly they rushed up, it simply wasn't enough. Shi Ling spread her wings and unleashed a Vermilion Judgment, causing countless fireballs to rain down like a storm, turning the surrounding region into a sea of flames. All undead that went into the sea of flames were instantly incinerated. It seemed like there was no end to these vampiric undead. However, Ling Chen's goal wasn't to kill them, but to pass through the path of darkness. He simply couldn't afford to keep fighting with them here. He frowned and made a decision as he yelled,
Shi Ling, let's go!
As he spoke, Snow Cherry turned into a white blur and shot forwards, passing through the area that Vermilion Judgment covered. Countless undead monsters sprang towards him, and without looking, Ling Chen raised his hand, and a new moon rose, followed by Moon Sacrifice. The light of destruction fell, completely annihilating the innumerable undead within 300 meters of Ling Chen. However, before Ling Chen could break out, countless vampiric undead once again swarmed at him with numbers no fewer than before. Ling Chen and Shi Ling alternated in using their AoE skills. This was the only thing they could do against such overwhelming numbers. Every second countless vampiric undead would fall, but they would immediately be replaced by more undead monsters, making it so that the pressure on Ling Chen and Shi Ling did not decrease, but instead increase. At first, Ling Chen could continue charging, but he began to slow down more and more, and in the end, it became difficult to even move forwards. A single vampiric undead was nothing to him, 10 were negligible, and even with hundreds of thousands they still wouldn't be able to make him feel much pressure, but there were simply too many of them, and they simply did not stop coming. It was just like how a single drop of water would quickly evaporate, but an entire basin of water could make the ground wet, while massive waves could destroy mountains. Ling Chen was currently being assaulted on all sides by gigantic waves, and he could barely advance. However, if he or Shi Ling made a single mistake in their attacks, they would be done for.
Ding! Your pet Kyer has leveled up to LV 46, HP plus 1000, MP plus 1000, Physical Attack Power plus 10, Magic Attack Power plus 200.
There were simply too many vampiric undead, and they were killing them so quickly that Kyer had leveled up in just a few minutes. Ling Chen was now furious. He raised his head and lowered his weapons as a layer of purple lightning appeared around his body. Ice Purgatory. Every time Ling Chen used the Thunder God's Bulwark, it decreased how much lightning it had stored within it. This power from the guardian beast White Tiger could cause miracles, and at this moment, he had to use it even if he didn't want to. Just as the purple light started to expand out and was about to be released, a song that sounded like a gentle breeze sounded out. Kyer, who had been hiding behind Ling Chen in fear, was currently floating beside Ling Chen. Her beautiful eyes were closed, and there was a pure smile on her pink and tender face. The song she sang sounded like a song from heaven, and every word and note could cause a person's mind to feel intoxicated from the bliss of hearing the song. As he listened to the song, Ling Chen gradually calmed down, and a beautiful scene appeared within his mind. A gentle breeze, quiet, flowing waters, the faint fragrance of flowers, the warm sunlight, the azure sky. It was as if he had no troubles or worries, only a peaceful and safe heaven. At the same time, Ling Chen suddenly felt that the pressure around him was becoming weaker, and the howls of the vampiric undead became softer. Within his field of vision, the vampiric undead rushing towards him slowed down, and the murderous looks within their eyes died. Even the bloodthirsty air around them gradually faded. Boom! A boundless desolation from Ling Chen and a heaven-burning flames from Shi Ling were simultaneously released, causing the undead to Ling Chen's sides and above him to be annihilated. However, the vampiric undead in the distance did not immediately charge over. Instead, the vampiric undead on the ground looked at them and hesitantly took a few steps forwards before lowering their heads and starting to powerlessly mill around, as if they had forgotten about Ling Chen and his pets. The demon bats in the air did not fly over, and they instead flew around slowly. The rate at which they beat their wings became at least 3 to 4 times slower. Some would occasionally fly past Ling Chen, but before they could attack, they would lazily fly past as if they were too lazy to attack them. Ling Chen turned to look at Kair, who was smiling as she sang, and stared at her with incredulity. She wasn't the cute and bubbly Kair that he knew, but she seemed more like a goddess. At this moment, he smacked himself on the head. He had forgotten about this little fairy's abilities. After all, this was the first time Ling Chen had summoned her after taking her as a pet, and Ling Chen was the most unfamiliar with her skills. Just then, when he had been almost overwhelmed by the attacks of the undead and felt an incredible amount of pressure, he didn't have a chance to think about Kair's nature songs. There was a song of redemption, pure heaven, which reduced the enemy's hatred and battle spirit. Even if he had thought of it, he wouldn't have expected such a ridiculous effect. The vampiric undead, which had wanted to rip him into pieces, did not even look at him now, let alone attack him. It was as if he didn't exist to them.
Kair, why didn't you sing this earlier? Shi Ling and I were fighting so hard back there.
Ling Chen wiped the cold sweat off his forehead as he asked. During this period of time, he and Shi Ling had been incredibly tense. Even if he forgot about the Song of Redemption, how could Kair forget about it? Kair stopped singing and lifted her face, her small hand patting her chest as she said in a small voice.
There were so many scary monsters, and I was nearly scared to death, so I forgot about it.
SSS in just the few seconds that Kair stopped singing, the vampiric undead around them started to hiss and screech again. The vampiric undead seemed to have been shocked out of a nightmare, and a berserk aura burst out from them as they charged towards Ling Chen, once again forming a massive army of undead. Ling Chen's eyebrows jumped, and he hurriedly sent the nearest wave of undead flying as he yelled to Kair.
Hurry and sing! Don't stop! Oh!
Kair, who had been given a big fright, hurriedly started to sing the Song of Redemption again. Just as she started to sing, the berserk aura died down by half and was soon gone. The approaching undead army stopped and silently dispersed, with all of the monsters ignoring Ling Chen and his pets. Ling Chen let out a breath and asked Xiao Hui to find the direction before quickly advancing. At first, Ling Chen was still quite cautious, but after 10 or so minutes, he was able to let down his guard. The vampiric undead here were like big cabbages, and none of them attacked him as he passed by. Despite passing right before them, they didn't even bother to look at him and uninterestedly walked away. There would sometimes be a wall of undead blocking their way, which would be incinerated by Shi Ling, and the undead around them would continue to mill around, not caring at all. As such, Shi Ling opened the way from the front, and Xiao Hui was right behind her, collecting the Underworld coins, while Ling Chen followed behind them in a carefree manner. Their journey was completely unobstructed, and 2 hours later, he came out of the Path of Darkness as the lighting changed and a system announcement sounded out. Kair was undoubtedly the one who made it possible to pass through the Path of Darkness so easily. Without Kair, Ling Chen definitely wouldn't have been able to make it through the Path of Shadows, and it would have been incredibly difficult for him to make it past the Path of Darkness. After walking out of the Path of Darkness, Ling Chen opened Kai's stats page and looked through her abilities a few times, especially all of her nature songs. After committing them to memory, he once again advanced. At a different place.
All of the signs we've seen points to Ling Tian hiding in Suhang City, and he is under the Li family's protection. There's definitely some sort of relationship between him and Li Xiaoshui. Are you sure?
Long Tianyun turned around, his gaze sinister.
I'm completely certain. Furthermore, although the Yun family has been desperately searching for her, Yun Ming Xian hasn't returned to the Yun family and is staying somewhere else. However, it seems that there are people protecting her. All of the people I've sent to monitor her haven't returned. We haven't even found any corpses. Then her as well.
Long Tianyun laughed, a trace of madness in his eyes.
If I can't have her, I'll just have to destroy her. Even if it's her, she deserves to die for forcing me to this state. Young Master wants to carry this out immediately. That's right, you can start right now.
Long Tianyun's laugh was incredibly cold and savage.
However, you should know the consequences if this is leaked. Even my own father would kill me, so none of you will be able to escape either.
The black figure trembled and lowered its head as it said,
Rest assured, young master will definitely carry this out perfectly without any flaws. They won't be able to suspect anyone. Go.
The black figure nodded and quickly disappeared from Long Tianyun's sight.
You forced me to do this. Enjoy this nightmare. Ding! You have entered the Ice Purgatory. There may be great danger ahead. Please proceed with caution or immediately leave.
As Ling Chen stepped into the Ice Purgatory, the space in front of him became quite wide. The world before him was no longer dark, but was instead quite bright, allowing Ling Chen to see the entire space clearly. It seemed to be a region constructed with crystals, and no matter if it was below their feet, above them, or to the sides, it seemed to be made of light blue ice. At a glance, this seemed like a sealed world, but it was thousands of meters under the surface, so it shouldn't have any natural light from above. The light in here should be from the crystals.
Wow! It's all ice here! So pretty, it's just a bit cold.
Lung'er looked around with wide eyes that were full of curiosity and excitement as she subconsciously pulled her thin clothes closer to her. There was ice everywhere, so naturally it would be quite cold here. However, it was not to the point that it was freezing. But then again, Ling Chen had the Aquarius orb, so even if it was at absolute zero, he wouldn't feel it at all. It was all ice below his feet, and it was quite difficult to walk due to how slippery it was. As such, Snow Cherry had to fly low to the ground. Ling Chen flew slowly, continuously looking around him. The space was not very big. It was at most 300 meters wide, and as soon as Ling Chen had entered, he could see the exit. The ground directly ahead was flat and slippery, and there was nothing to obstruct him. On the sides were countless large and small mountains of ice, and it was so silent that one could hear a pin drop, making the atmosphere seem quite oppressive.
Big brother, it was so dark outside, so why is there light here? I can't see any magic lights here.
Kyer asked curiously while appreciating the icy environment.
Shoo!
Ling Chen put his finger to his lips. Kyer immediately covered her mouth, blinking at Ling Chen. Snow Cherry continued to advance, but at a slower rate. Then, as Ling Chen's eyebrows twitched, Snow Cherry came to a complete stop. It was completely silent around them, and there was not even a trace of sound. They were less than 100 meters from the exit, but Ling Chen had suddenly stopped and paused there, his eyebrows furrowed as he narrowed his eyes. Suddenly, his pupils contracted as he activated Moment of Elegance and shot upwards like an arrow. Crack! The still surface of ice beneath Ling Chen was suddenly broken through as countless bone spikes pierced upwards, reaching 10 meters in the air. The bone spikes extended for 100 meters across, forming a shocking forest of bone spikes. Because of Ling Chen's incredible reaction time in using Moment of Elegance, Snow Cherry, and he narrowly avoided the bone spikes, and Ling'er's body was in a spirit state, so she naturally was not harmed. However, Xiaohui, Shi Ling, and Kai'er were hit, minus 45,000, minus 18,000, minus 180,000. Although Xiaohui was only Heaven's End grade, his maximum HP was 88,960, and adding on the Holy Spirit's shield, which negated 50% of all damage, that terrifying attack was not enough to insta-kill him. For Shi Ling, apart from water, all of her elemental resistances were not lower than 80%. As such, she bore only 20% of this darkness element attack. However, Shi Ling's life force was quite weak, and even with Kai'er's nature's heart, her maximum HP was only 10,720. So although she didn't receive much damage, her HP bar was instantly emptied. As for Kai'er, 5 of her elemental resistances were at 90%, but she was incredibly weak against darkness attacks. With her minus 100% darkness resistance, the attack dealt a massive amount of damage to her, and also instantly killed her. However, Shi Ling and Kai'er did not immediately die. Instead, Xiaohui's body shone with a gray light.
Ding! Your pet Xiaohui's passive ability, Holy Spirit Sacrifice, has been activated and has taken the place of Shi Ling and Kai'er's deaths. Shi Ling and Kai'er have been restored to the state before they died. Ding! Your pet Xiaohui has died. Ding! Your pet Xiaohui's passive ability, Holy Spirit's Shield, has activated and has been revived with full HP.
Ling Chen, who was high in the air, saw an eerie white shadow about 50 meters to his left. Killing Heaven's End at some unknown time, a massive skeleton had appeared on the ice. It had 2 large horns, a terrifying head, a gigantic body, and a pair of bony wings that seemed larger than its body when extended. There was also a bony tail that was around 10 meters long behind it. Below its body were incredibly eerie and white claws. Its body was made up completely of bones, and it gave off a shocking and monstrous aura. This was evidently the gigantic skeleton dragon that only appeared in myths and legends. And yet, this skeleton was moving, and there were 2 balls of black light in its eye sockets. While Ling Chen was staring at this gigantic skeleton dragon in shock, an icy aura came from his left. Ling Chen quickly turned his head and saw a 10-meter-long, 1-meter-thick ice shard flying towards him. Through the ice shard, he could see something completely blue breaking through the ice, an ice wolf. Ling Chen did not try to evade, and in the next instant, the gigantic ice shard passed through his body. Plus 134,680. Boom! At that moment, the ice shard heading directly toward Ling Chen was shattered, as a gigantic black figure shot out like a cannonball towards him. Before it even came close, the howling wind cut into his body, bringing about pain all over, while Xiaohui, Kai'er, and Shi Ling were set flying, the sensation of death rapidly approaching Ling Chen. If he had Moment of Elegance, evading this sort of sudden attack would not have been too difficult. However, the black figure would attack Kai'er, and Shi Ling behind him if he evaded. As such, Ling Chen frowned as he instead rushed towards it. A massive explosion sounded out as Ling Chen and the black ball-like thing collided. As a minus 150,000 red damage figure rose up, the black ball gave a low roar, and was sent flying by the impact reflected by the evil god's mask. At that moment, Ling Chen saw its full appearance, as well as the 8 spikes on its back. At the same time, information about these 3 creatures were sent into Ling Chen's mind from Xiaohui. Demon Skeleton Dragon, type, Undead, grade, Heaven's End, level,
LV 66, HP, 72 million. An overworld war dragon originally from a western continent. It was killed by the Shura during the Shura's devastation, and its corpse was obtained by the Underworld King, who used the power of darkness and death to turn it into an undead skeleton dragon. Although it has lost its consciousness, it contains the overworld war dragon's abilities and powers, and its incredibly powerful body and attacks make it a nightmare to all enemies. Passive abilities: extremely high physical defense and physical attack power. Immune to all abnormal statuses and debuffs. Attack skills: Demon Dragon Claw, Forest of Darkness, Bone Spike Hell, Darkness Breath. Ultimate skills: Dragon's Reverse Scale, Demon Dragon Roar. Weaknesses: no elemental resistances, weak towards light and fire element attacks. 8th Fiend, type: Undead, grade: Heaven's End, level: LV 70, HP, 105 million. A natural-born undead that fell into the underworld blood lake but did not die, gaining tremendous power. It has 8 spikes on its back and has a cruel and war-loving personality. Any part of its body can shred through the toughest defense. Because it caused much chaos in the underworld, it was subjugated by the Underworld King and forever sealed in the Ice Purgatory. Passive abilities: incredibly high physical attack damage, and its attacks have a high chance of adding a Torn status. Immune to all abnormal statuses and debuffs. Attack skills: Spirit Spike, Soul All, Sphere Ram, 1000 Split, 8th Soul Life Chasing Dance. Ultimate skill: Hell Euphoria. 8th Movement. Weaknesses: weak physical defense and magic defense. All of its darkness power is focused on physical damage, and has no long range or magic attacks. Ice Soul Undead Wolf, type: Undead, grade: Heaven's End, level: LV 70, HP, 99 million. An emperor of the Ice Wolf clan at the glaciers of the extreme north of the Forgotten Continent. Its corpse was obtained by an underworld representative and brought back to the underworld. After being immersed in the underworld blood lake, it awakened power greater than that when it was alive, and became an undead wolf that only knows to attack. Although it is an undead, the deathly aura is only supporting its body to move, while its attacks are purely ice type. It is the monster with the greatest water damage in the underworld. Passive abilities: it has an agile body and incredibly fast movement speed. It has incredibly high resistance to magic of all elements apart from earth. Immune to all abnormal statuses and debuffs. Attack skills: Rain of Disaster, Icy Fission, Snowstorm, Endless Ice Blades, Ice Soul Snow Spirit, Blizzard, Extreme Ice Storm, Pale Roar. Ultimate skill: Extreme Blue Radiance. Weaknesses: weak against earth element attacks, relatively weak physical defense, attacks are mainly magic attacks, and has weak physical attacks. Within the Ice Purgatory were 3 powerful Heaven's End grade beasts. To date, Ling Chen had fought with 2 Heaven's End grade beings before, one of which was the Mountain Giant. When he had first fought the Mountain Giant, it was so suffocatingly strong that Ling Chen wasn't even able to escape. In the end, because of Tian's death, he was able to miraculously turn the tide. The other was the purple-winged cloud leopard on the Godchild Peak. It had also forced Ling Chen into a state of hopelessness, and it was only killed because of Shi Ling. Back then, Ling Chen didn't have any strength to fight with Heaven's End grade beings of the same level. And now, there were 3 Heaven's End grade monsters that were all higher level than him. What's more, each of these 3 monsters were far more powerful than the Mountain Giant and the purple-winged cloud leopard. The 3 Heaven's End grade beasts' auras locked onto Ling Chen. When 3 powerful Heaven's End grade beasts simultaneously locked aggro onto Ling Chen, he found it difficult to even breathe. Fight with these 3 Heaven's End grade beasts? Ling Chen naturally wouldn't do such a thing.
If they were 3 celestial grade beasts, it was possible, but Heaven's End grade, facing them directly, was simply seeking death. Ling Chen quickly thought and looked over to Kair as he said in a low voice,
Kair, hurry and make them sleep.
Just as Ling Chen moved, the 3 beasts roared. Under the might from their roars, the entire Ice Purgatory began to shake. At this moment, a melodious song sounded. The voice was soft and gentle, and it felt as if it traveled through one's ears into their heart and then into their soul, causing them to lapse into intoxication, reveling in the beauty of the song. The 3 beasts stopped roaring, and they all paused in their attacks. Their bodies powerlessly lay on the ground and yawned before falling asleep. Song of Tranquility, clear dream in a peaceful night. Even powerful Heaven's End grade beasts fell asleep under Kair's Song of Tranquility. Kair did not stop singing, because once she stopped, it was possible that the beasts would immediately wake up and would not be affected by the Song of Tranquility anymore. Ling Chen took this opportunity and rushed to the Ice Purgatory's exit. At the exit was a mass of gray, black, and blue light blocking the way. Ice Purgatory Barrier, a special barrier created by the Underworld King from the Demon Skeleton Dragon, 8th Fiend, and Ice Soul Undead Wolf source energies. Only when the Demon Skeleton Dragon, 8th Fiend, and Ice Soul Undead Wolf have died will the barrier disappear. When he saw the barrier's description, Ling Chen could only turn around and look at the 3 sleeping beasts. Once they fell under the effects of the Song of Tranquility, as long as Kair did not stop singing and he didn't attack them, they would not wake up. However, once they woke up, they wouldn't be affected by the Song of Tranquility anymore. It was impossible for Ling Chen to face 3 Heaven's End grade beasts, but if it was one at a time. Ling Chen's gaze fell on the Demon Skeleton Dragon, which was the lowest level. After staring at it for a few moments, he gently breathed in and rushed towards its body.
Kair, immediately hide in a corner and keep singing. Shi Ling, keep a safe distance and attack whenever you have the opportunity. Xiao Hui, protect them. Lung Air, give some words of support. Snow Cherry, let's go! Soul Sacrifice. War God's Fury. Ding, the Libra Orb's effects have been activated. Soul Sacrifice, as cooldown time has been reset. Ding, the Libra Orb's effects have been activated. War God's Fury, as cooldown time has been reset.
After activating his 2 powerful buffs, Ling Chen's maximum HP fell by 50%, and his current HP was reduced to 1 HP. However, his basic attack power skyrocketed to 58,310. In his strongest state, he launched 2 of the War God's profession's most powerful skills towards the Demon Skeleton Dragon. A. Extinguishing the heavens and destroying the earth tempest with his right hand, and an A. Direction Annihilation with his left.
Ding, the Libra Orb's effects have been activated, extinguishing the heavens and destroying the earth tempest, as cooldown time has been reset. Ding, the Libra Orb's effects have been activated, 8 Direction Annihilation, as cooldown time has been reset.
Boom. Minus 8,163,400, minus 1,959,216. A massive explosion sounded out, causing the surrounding layer of ice to fracture as countless shards of ice were lifted into the air, turning into a rain of ice fragments. The Demon Skeleton Dragon's body was blasted away and landed heavily on the ice, forming a large crater. This caused the Demon Skeleton Dragon to wake up, and the 3 seconds that the extinguishing the heavens and destroying the earth tempest should have applied did not take effect. It stood up and roared with ear-piercing fury. However, Ling Chen did not immediately attack again, and instead stared at the 2 slowly fading damage figures. Each of those skills had dealt more than 1 million damage, and one of them had nearly dealt 10 million damage. Ling Chen continued to stare, feeling completely dumbfounded. After upgrading his war god's profession and obtaining 2 pieces of Heaven's End grade equipment, this was the first time he had gone all out in a fight. Moreover, he had used 2 of the most powerful skills of the war god's profession, dealing so much damage that he almost gave himself a fright. He couldn't believe his own eyes. Although he was facing a high-level Heaven's End grade monster, he had dealt almost 10% of its HP in a single attack. This should be impossible. Ling Chen only came back to his senses when the demon skeleton dragon roared and charged towards him, as bone spikes fell towards him like rain. Ling Chen didn't bother to look at the bone spikes falling towards him. He charged up with a moment of elegance and activated Moon Shadow as he fixed the demon skeleton dragon in place, unleashing 2 heaven-destroying slashes on it. From a distance, Shi Ling mercilessly shot out a solar laser at the demon skeleton dragon. -816,240, -815,998, -1,085,400. Under Ling Chen's current state, even the heaven-destroying slashes, which were almost normal attacks to him, dealt nearly 1 million damage, which was close to how much Shi Ling's solar laser had dealt. At the same time, the war god's fury not only increased his physical attack power, but also his attack speed as well. With the chilling star, Ling Chen's attack speed was 120, which was doubled to 240 with the war god's fury, meaning that he could unleash 5 rounds of attacks in 2 seconds. As Ling Chen rapidly attacked, the chilling star and twilight spear became 2 blurs. The demon skeleton dragon's HP rapidly fell under the repeated attacks from Ling Chen and Shi Ling. By the time Moon Shadow had ended, the demon skeleton dragon's HP had fallen to less than half. Ling Chen's eyes flashed as he sent out another, extinguishing the heavens and destroying the earth tempest, and 8-direction annihilation. -8,160,008, -1,963,500. With Moon Shadow's effects gone, the demon skeleton dragon's body once again flew away like a gigantic sandbag. With such massive damage and force, let alone a Heaven's End grade beast, even a mysterious god grade beast would be sent flying. Ling Chen did not stop, but instead he chased after it like a bolt of lightning. The instant it landed, Ling Chen aimed the twilight spear towards its back as a colorless light flashed. -25,920,000. Powerful bosses all had powerful ultimate skills, and this was much more so for high-grade bosses. Those ultimate skills often only activated when their HP fell below a certain amount, and the lower their HP was, the more terrifying their ultimate attacks would be. This was something that Ling Chen was incredibly familiar with, especially when a boss HP fell below 10%. The damage that their ultimate skills dealt would be able to destroy the heavens and annihilate the earth. However, Ling Chen no longer had to worry about bosses becoming insanely powerful after falling into critical HP. No matter how powerful his target was, if their HP fell below 36%, they were as good as dead to him. After being upgraded by the Holy Spirit's Pearl, Soul Demise dealt 36% of a target's maximum HP instantly.
Ding! You have successfully killed the LV-66 Heaven's End grade boss, Demon Skeleton Dragon, Fame plus 66,000, SP plus 66,000. Ding! Congratulations! You have leveled up to LV-58, HP plus 20, MP plus 20, Strength plus 5, Agility plus 1, Spirit plus 1. Ding! Your pet Xiaohui has leveled up to LV-58. Ding! Your pet Lengair has leveled up to LV-58. Ding! Your pet Snow Cherry has leveled up to LV-58. Ding! Your pet Shiling has leveled up to LV-58. Ding! Your pet Kyer has leveled up to LV-47. Ding! Your pet Kyer has leveled up to LV-48. Ding! Your pet Kyer has leveled up to LV50.
The system announcement in his ears signified the end of this battle. After watching the demon skeleton dragon fall and not get back up, Ling Chen found that there was a large pile of equipment and items around it. It was finished. It was finished. Just like that, he had killed an LV-66 Heaven's End grade beast. Staring at the demon skeleton dragon's body, Ling Chen felt as if his world was tottering. Lachesis tier? From the experience he had in fighting Heaven's End grade bosses from the past, Ling Chen thought that it would have been an incredibly cruel and bitter battle. He never expected that he would slice this scary-looking demon skeleton dragon up like lettuce. The war god's profession was completely focused on damage, and all of its skills dealt massive amounts of damage. Moreover, the lunar scourge was an undeniably heaven-defying item. It allowed him to ignore all defense, gave him absolute hit and absolute critical hits, and after his second profession upgrade, Ling Chen's stats were far superior to that of normal players. Moreover, his damage had long surpassed the limit for players, and in his most powerful state, his damage could be said to be on the level of mysterious god-grade existences, or even higher. Furthermore, his second profession and the lunar scourge's various skills allowed him to easily survive even in the most desperate situations. As such, Ling Chen hadn't realized just how terrifying his attacks were before today. When Kyer saw the demon skeleton dragon fall, her eyes glittered in excitement as she waved her hands around, but she did not dare to stop singing, keeping the eighth fiend and Ice Soul undead wolf in their sleeping states. Xiaohui happily ran over and collected all of the spoils of war dropped by the demon skeleton dragon. He then ran around the corpse a few times before opening his mouth and releasing a faint gray light, and then he started to devour the demon skeleton dragon's corpse. The demon skeleton dragon had dropped 7 pieces of equipment, 1 silver grade, for gold grade, 1 celestial grade helmet, and a ring that flowed with the colors of the rainbow. When Ling Chen looked at the ring's grade, his pupils dilated and his body almost started to tremble. This was because the ring's grade wasn't celestial, nor was it Heaven's End, but mysterious god. Although he had killed a Heaven's End grade boss, that did not necessarily mean that Ling Chen would receive Heaven's End grade equipment. Based on his experience with virtual games, there was only a 20% chance of a Heaven's End grade boss dropping a piece of Heaven's End grade equipment, even after countless players had spent incredible amounts of resources killing it. However, Ling Chen was different. With Ling Chen's luck and the fact that he had single-handedly killed a boss that was much higher level than him, the chances of Heaven's End grade equipment dropping was almost 100%. Even receiving Heaven's End grade jewelry wouldn't be so strange. However, after killing a Heaven's End grade boss, a mysterious god grade equipment had dropped. This was never heard of, and should be completely impossible. Apart from Saint Destroyer, the words mysterious god essentially represented the apex of power, and the number of mysterious god grade equipment in the Forgotten Continent could be counted on a single hand. Anyone who obtained a piece of mysterious god grade equipment would be able to sweep across the land unhindered. In the history of virtual games, there had never been more than 2 pieces of mysterious god grade equipment in a single region in the late stages of virtual games. This was true for the entire world. It was evident how rare they were. And yet, after easily killing a Heaven's End grade boss, Ling Chen had obtained a mysterious god grade equipment. This made him delirious with joy. He had 9 mysterious god grade orbs of the lunar scourge, so he knew just how powerful the words mysterious god were. Moreover, the mysterious god grade orbs were attached to the lunar scourge, while most other mysterious god grade equipment were separate equipment. Although they were the same grade, the concept was completely different. As such, obtaining this mysterious god grade equipment greatly increased his strength. Ling Chen was so excited that he only casually glanced at the silver and gold grade equipment before putting them away and looking at the remaining 2 pieces of equipment in detail. Demon Dragon Darkness Crown Type, Headpiece, Grade, Celestial, Equipment Requirements, any profession above LV 65. Cannot be traded, and will disappear after being thrown away. A battle helmet made from the evil dragon's skull. It contains remnants of the demon dragon's power and consciousness, and it gives off a might and murderous air that causes people to tremble. Stats: Defense plus 390, plus 30 to each of the 4 basic attributes, critical chance plus 12%, darkness resistance plus 10%. Bonus skills: Demon Dragon Roar. When suffering damage to the head, there is a 15% chance of activating the demon dragon's remnant soul's anger, eliciting a furious roar that completely reflects the damage. This battle helmet was a dark gray color, and its exterior looked like a dragon's skull. Although it was a skull, it looked completely terrifying. The mouth was wide open, and the rows of dragon teeth glinted like sharp knives. A black light flowed in the 2 eye sockets as if it was looking around, making murderous air coming from it almost felt corporeal. As an LV-65 celestial grade equipment, its stats were naturally not weak. Although its appearance was quite horrifying, Ling Chen equipped it without hesitation, and his stats rocketed up. Following this, Ling Chen took in a deep breath as he looked at the mysterious god grade ring stats in expectation. Lachesis Tear Type, Ring Grade, Mysterious God, Equipment Requirements, Unknown. A ring with unknown origins that was somehow devoured by the Overlord War Dragon and brought to the Forgotten Continent. Stats: HP plus 50%, negates all damage and negative effects from Lachesis. The ring was in the shape of a beautiful tear, was completely transparent, and had a rainbow light around it. It looked like it had been crafted from a flawless diamond. From its appearance, it seemed like a ring suitable for females. However, its stats caused Ling Chen to feel quite surprised. Increasing one's HP by 50% was quite a powerful stat, but it also negated all damage and negative effects from Lachesis. This stat was quite strange, and Ling Chen couldn't see the use of it. An increase of HP by 50% was quite powerful on other equipment, but as the only stat on a mysterious god grade equipment, it didn't seem like much. The Virgo Orb, which was also mysterious god grade, gave 150% HP and 150% MP. It was much better than just plus 50%. This sort of stat shouldn't qualify as mysterious god grade, which meant that its most important stat wasn't the HP buff, but the fact that it negated all damage and negative effects from Lachesis. However, this stat felt unintelligible to Ling Chen. What was Lachesis? A person? A weapon? Some sort of attacking item? Ling Chen had never heard of this name before. Moreover, if negating all damage from Lachesis qualified this ring to be mysterious god grade, Lachesis was definitely something extraordinary. However, from this ring's short description, the only thing he could tell was that it was from a Western continent, while Lachesis was evidently a Western name. Perhaps Lachesis existed on a Western continent, which meant that it wouldn't have much to do with the Forgotten Continent and Eastern Continent. In other words, this stat was not very useful to Ling Chen. To be blunt, the main stat was a completely trash stat to him. Although it was a mysterious god grade ring, it only gave a bonus of 50% HP. Ling Chen felt quite displeased and cheated, but a bonus 50% HP was something that would at least appear on celestial grade equipment. It was better than any of the rings Ling Chen currently had, so although he wasn't quite satisfied with it, he still equipped it on his left hand. After opening his stats page, he found that his HP had rocketed to 50,400. After killing the demon skeleton dragon, he had also received large amounts of SP. Ling Chen did not hoard them, and he instead spent them on upgrading the Heaven Wind technique and item manipulation technique. After all, He was about to hit LV60, and when that happened, Xiao Hui's Holy Spirit's gift would bring them both to max level. Heaven Wind Technique, current level, LV9, highest level, LV10. SP to upgrade to LV10, 15,000. An ancient battle technique that can greatly increase the ability to control any weapon after practice. Effect: when using any weapon, damage dealt is increased by 45%. Effect does not stack with other weapon proficiency skills. Item Manipulation Technique, current level, LV9, highest level, LV10. SP to upgrade to LV10, 15,000. An ancient battle technique that allows you to equip equipment that surpasses your current level after practice. Effect: ignores any piece of equipment's level requirement by 9 levels. Apart from these pieces of equipment, the Demon Skeleton Dragon had also dropped 6,000 Underworld coins, 30 or so pieces of Dark Dragon bones, and a profession change scroll for the special summoner profession, Dark Dragon Rider. Kair continued to sing. She loved singing, and even if she had to sing for a long time, she wouldn't feel tired or bored. So, she continued to sing elegantly and gracefully. Xiao Hui had finished devouring the Demon Skeleton Dragon, leaving nothing behind from the gigantic skeleton. Before, Xiao Hui would never devour undead beings, especially those low-level zombies. He wouldn't even look at them. However, he simply couldn't control himself when faced with a Heaven's End grade undead skeleton dragon. Ding! Your pet Xiao Hui has successfully consumed the Demon Skeleton Dragon, HP plus 1300, Defense plus 90. After devouring the Demon Skeleton Dragon, Xiao Hui burped before swaying and spitting out a dark-colored pearl. Dragon Soul Pearl, a pearl that contains the overworld war dragon soul and life, which is found in the core of the dragon's head. It contains powerful war dragon energy. Even if the war dragon dies, the energy within it will not naturally dissipate. The dark pearl was quite heavy and felt icy cold. Ling Chen could not see any uses for it. As such, he threw it into his bag. The dwarves would probably be quite interested in it. After dealing with the Demon Skeleton Dragon, Ling Chen's gaze locked onto the loudly sleeping 8th Fiend's spiky back. The 8th Fiend was higher level than the Demon Skeleton Dragon, had nearly 30 million more HP than it, and had higher attack power. However, in Ling Chen's eyes, it was much less of a threat than the Demon Skeleton Dragon. The reason was quite simple. The 8th Fiend had only physical attacks, and did not have any long-range attacks or attacks with large AoEs that Ling Chen could not avoid. From the attack it had launched before, its agility didn't seem too great either. With his abilities, this sort of enemy was the type that he could defeat most easily, based on his estimations. For the 8th Fiend to hit him within 10 seconds was essentially impossible. Killing 3 Heaven's End by now, all of Ling Chen's cooldown times had reset. He leisurely went over to the 8th Fiend and activated War God's Fury and Soul Sacrifice before he raised his weapons. A light of strength burst forth from his body as he cast A, extinguishing the heavens and destroying the earth tempest, and 8-direction annihilation towards the 8th Fiend's round body. In the distance, Shi Ling shot out a solar laser, hitting the 8th Fiend the same time that Ling Chen's attacks hit it. 3 gigantic damage figures floated up, as the 8th Fiend instantly lost over 10% of its more than 100 million HP. Its body flew 100 meters, as if it was a rubber ball that had been kicked, and it smashed onto a wall of ice at the boundary of the Ice Purgatory. After being attacked, the 8th Fiend woke up and radiated a vicious air. Because of its immense power, the space around it seemed to freeze, and a strange, sharp howl sounded out. 100 meters away, the 8th Fiend's body turned into a perfectly shaped ball, which had 8 spikes on it. It then suddenly released a storm of energy and shot out like a bullet towards Ling Chen, who was in the air. It traversed the 100 meters between them in just 2 seconds. Ling Chen narrowed his eyes and quickly descended using a moment of elegance, dodging the eighth fiend's attack without taking any damage. At the same time, he released a moon shadow from his right hand, freezing the eighth fiend in the air. He then leapt up and continuously chained skills as he hit it, while Shi Ling also shot her flames towards it. 5 seconds later, Moon Shadow's effects ended, and the eighth fiend fell to the ground pitifully. By now, it had lost more than 1/3 of its HP.
Snow Cherry, Thousand Illusion. Illusory Moon.
Snow Cherry rushed over to the eighth fiend in the blink of an eye. The eighth fiend, which had been beaten savagely, was extremely furious. The spikes on its body lit up with a dark light, and then became longer and stabbed towards Ling Chen. However, before it could move, it saw a blur before its eyes. Its target suddenly divided into 2, then into 4, then 8, then 10s, then 100s. In just an instant, Ling Chen's afterimages filled the entire space and rushed towards the eighth fiend from all directions. The eighth fiend was utterly confused. Every one of the afterimages looked exactly the same, and all of them gave off the same aura. It was simply impossible for it to determine which one was its true target, and because it couldn't decide where to attack, it froze on the spot from indecision. Boom! Thousand Illusion was used to make sure the enemy would not know where to attack, making it difficult for them to attack. It was incredibly powerful because it caused the enemy to panic, making them reveal openings. Ling Chen's attack savagely hit the confused eighth fiend, sending its body, which had just stood up, into the layer of ice on the floor. Its body was buried into the ice, and then sent flying back up by another one of Ling Chen's attacks. Just like that, Ling Chen continued to ruthlessly attack it within the afterimages. The War God's Profession's attacks not only had incredibly power, but they also contained massive force. The more damage the attacks dealt, the more force would be released. In his most powerful state, Ling Chen's attacks were like 1,000-kilogram hammers smashing onto the eighth fiend's body, causing its body to be blasted back, fall over, and roll around. It was unable to maintain its balance, and could not attack Ling Chen even once. Its HP also continuously fell incredibly quickly, from 60% to 50% to 45%, 40%, 35%.
Goodbye!
Seeing that the eighth fiend had about only 1/3 of its HP remaining, Ling Chen slowed down his attacks as he casually raised his right hand, casting a Soul Demise. Minus 37,800,000. The eighth fiend's body suddenly became stiff as it unpleasantly cried, and then powerlessly fell to the shattered ice floor.
Ding! You have successfully killed the LV-70 Heaven's End grade boss, 8th Fiend, Fame plus 70, 000, SP plus 70, 000. Ding! Congratulations! You have leveled up to LV-59, HP plus 20, MP plus 20, Strength plus 5, Agility plus 1, Spirit plus 1. Ding! Your pet Xiaohui has leveled up to LV-59. Ding! Your pet Leng'er has leveled up to LV-59. Ding! Your pet Snow Cherry has leveled up to LV-59. Ding! Your pet Shiling has leveled up to LV-59. Ding! Your pet Kyer has leveled up to LV-51. Ding! Your pet Kyer has leveled up to LV-54.
Ling Chen had easily killed the demon skeleton dragon, and even killing the eighth fiend hadn't taken too much effort, much less an intense and dangerous battle. Looking at the eighth fiend's corpse, Ling Chen tapped his nose. Goddamn, I've become so OP. The EXP rewards for killing Heaven's End grade bosses that were higher level than him were simply enormous. Even with the Heaven's Jealousy debuff, Ling Chen had leveled up after killing each of the Heaven's End grade bosses, while Kyer had leveled up 7 times. Xiao Hui walked forwards and collected the spoils of war before starting to devour the 8th fiend's corpse. The 8th fiend had dropped 9 pieces of equipment in total. 7 of them were gold grade, 1 was celestial grade, and the remaining 1 was a Heaven's End grade equipment. Slasher type, gauntlet, grade, celestial, equipment requirements, any warrior or shield bearer profession above LV 70. Dark gauntlets made from the 8th fiend's spikes. They are completely black and are heavy and cold. The killing intent they possess is immense, and the backs are covered with sharp spikes. After equipping, attack power and critical chance will be greatly increased. Stats: defense plus 300, physical attack power plus 200, agility 20, critical chance plus 10%, pierce chance plus 10%, darkness resistance plus 5%. When attacking, adds a 7% chance of slashing open a wound and dealing continuous damage for the next 5 seconds. Although it did not give any skills, and the critical chance and pierce chance were useless to Ling Chen, the physical attack power plus 200 stat was a pleasant surprise for him. It had to be known that his strongest weapon, the Heaven's End grade Chilling Star, gave him 1000 attack power. It was a pity that the gauntlet's level requirement was LV 70, and even with the LV 9 item manipulation technique, he was still unable to equip it. The Heaven's End grade item dropped from the 8th fiend was surprisingly a jewelry equipment. Stone of Resentment, type, necklace, grade, Heaven's End, equipment requirements, any profession above LV 70. An item of evil and darkness that absorbed the resentment of countless undead where many undead perished. It contains boundless power of hatred. Stats: darkness resistance plus 5%. When attacking, adds a 5% chance of doubling damage, a 3% chance of tripling damage, a 1% chance of quadrupling damage, and a 0.1% chance of dealing 10 times damage. The Stone of Resentment was threaded on a black thread, and it was about as big as one of the Lunar Scourge's orbs. It had black wisps of air surrounding it, giving off an uncomfortable, eerie feeling. However, its stats completely shocked Ling Chen. The Stone of Resentment indeed deserved to have resentment in its name, and to be Heaven's End grade. Its effects could double his damage or even multiply it up to 10 times. In his most powerful state, the damage he could deal was simply unimaginable. If it activated during crucial moments, it could deal a miraculous blow. After feeling quite delighted about the Stone of Resentment stats, Ling Chen casually glanced through the stats of the other pieces of equipment before throwing them in his bag. Now, almost every Chinese player had a full set of gold grade of equipment, so he did not have even a bit of interest in the gold grade equipment.
Ding! Your pet Xiao Hui has successfully devoured the 8th fiend, HP plus 900, defense plus 180.
After devouring the 8th fiend, Xiao Hui's horn flashed as he spat out a black pearl, looking like the one he had spat out after devouring the demon skeleton dragon's corpse. Pearl of Revenge, type, energy orb, grade, Heaven's End, attributes, darkness, stats, reflects 35% of all damage received. This Heaven's End grade pearl had a shocking stat, a powerful reflective ability. This sort of item would be heaven-defying on any player, but to Ling Chen, this sort of thing wasn't very useful. After all, his attack power was simply too powerful, and the damage that would be reflected simply couldn't be compared to the damage that he could deal. Moreover, with his skills and abilities, it was almost impossible to hit him. It wasn't worth it for Ling Chen to give up the 15 movement speed from the wind-chasing stone for this. After dealing with the demon skeleton dragon and 8th fiend, taking down the remaining Ice Soul undead wolf was no problem at all. This was because although the Ice Soul undead wolf was a Heaven's End grade boss, it posed no threat to Ling Chen. The reason was very simple. All of the Ice Soul undead wolf's attacks were of the water element, and it was weak against physical attacks. As for ice and water attacks, Even the mysterious god Great Ice Demon Beast was unable to harm Ling Chen at all. So how could this Heaven's End Great Ice Soul Undead Wolf hope to even scratch him? Ling Chen moved over to the sleeping Ice Soul Undead Wolf and smashed an attack down onto it, waking it up. Following this, Ling Chen didn't even bother activating Moon Shadow or Soul Sacrifice, and he simply launched vigorous attacks with his two weapons. Naturally, the Ice Soul Undead Wolf was enraged and cast various powerful ice attacks towards Ling Chen. In just an instant, a snowstorm started blowing as ice blades flew around, turning the place into a true ice purgatory. However, Ling Chen completely ignored all of these attacks and chased down the Ice Soul Undead Wolf with his superior movement speed. Throughout the entire process, he did not stop attacking the Ice Soul Undead Wolf at all, because when the ice attacks hit him, green numbers would float up. The Ice Soul Undead Wolf simply couldn't harm him at all. When the Ice Soul Undead Wolf finally realized this, it chose to attack with its claws instead. Ling Chen did not bother evading, and he instead met its attack with his body. When the claws slammed onto his chest, a -3240 damage figure slowly rose up from the Ice Soul Undead Wolf's body. A player at this stage of the game dealing this amount of damage would be considered decent, but for a LV70 Heaven's End grade boss to deal such damage, it was simply trash. Ling Chen couldn't help but smirk and didn't waste any more time, activating both Soul Sacrifice and War God's Fury. He started beating down the Ice Soul Undead Wolf in his strongest condition, reducing its health to 30% in less than half a minute. Finally, just like the other bosses, he finished it off with a Soul Demise. Phew, give me a few more of these water element bosses. Ling Chen thought to himself as he looked down at the fallen Ice Soul Undead Wolf.
Ding! You have successfully killed the LV70 Heaven's End grade boss Ice Soul Undead Wolf, Fame plus 70, 0000, SP plus 70, 000. Ding! Congratulations! You have leveled up to LV60, HP plus 20, MP plus 20, Strength plus 5, Agility plus 1, Spirit plus 1. Ding! Your pet Xiaohui has leveled up to LV60, HP plus 800, MP plus 150, Defense plus 50, Skill, Eye of the Holy Spirit, has been raised to max level. Holy Spirit's Aura has leveled up to LV13, Holy Spirit's Pearl has leveled up to LV2, Holy Spirit's Gift has leveled up to LV4, Holy Spirit's Shield has leveled up to LV4. Ding! Under the effects of your pet Xiaohui's skill, Holy Spirit's Gift, your skills, True Lucky Hand, Heaven Wind Technique, and Item Manipulation Technique have been leveled up to max level. War God Technique has been leveled up to LV11, Broken Shadow has been leveled up to LV9, and Vanishing Shadow has been leveled up to LV9. Ding! Your pet Langer has leveled up to LV60, MP plus 100, Magic Attack Power plus 20, Defense plus 10, Skill, Soul Lock has been leveled up to LV2. Ding! Your pet Snow Cherry has leveled up to LV60, HP plus 1000, MP plus 300, Physical Attack Power plus 100, Magic Attack Power plus 60, Defense plus 50, and has entered into her six-tail form. Skill, Godly Fox Skytoppling Dance, S effects have changed accordingly. Ding! Your pet Xiling has leveled up to LV60, HP plus 100, MP plus 2000, Physical Attack Power plus 20, Magic Attack Power plus 800, Defense plus 1, Skill, Heaven Burning Flames has been leveled up to LV9, Solar Laser has been leveled up to LV9, and her normal fire attacks effects have become more powerful. Ding! Your pet Kyre has leveled up to LV55. Ding! Your pet Kyre has leveled up to LV57, HP plus 1000, MP plus 1000, Physical Attack Power plus 10, Magic Attack Power plus 200, Defense plus 10.
Massive benefits after killing 3 high-leveled Heaven's End grade bosses. Ling Chen's level jumped from LV 57 to LV 60. Xiao Hui's Holy Spirit's gift leveled up to LV 4. And all of Ling Chen's skills that weren't max level had also leveled up. Eye of the Holy Spirit, current level, LV 5, max level. Uses the Holy Spirit's energy to create a pair of eyes that can see through all hidden things. The higher the level, the more information that can be seen and the greater the range. Effects. Can view detailed information and weaknesses about any target. The information can be transferred to the master. Has a range of 200 meters, and it can discover any hidden areas, items, or creatures. Holy Spirit's aura, current level, LV 13, highest level, LV 20, level required to upgrade to LV 14, LV 65. Using its Holy Spirit aura, which is devoid of evil and impurity, to seek the protection of Mother Nature, it upgrades the innate gifts of itself and all companions. Effect. Luck plus 13 and Comprehension plus 13 of itself along with the Master and all pet companions. Effect exists even while not summoned. Holy Spirit's Pearl, current level, LV 2, highest level, LV 3, level required to upgrade to LV 3, LV 70. The Holy Spirit Beast uses its unique Holy Spirit power to create a special pearl, containing boundless auspiciousness and nature's blessings. Can create 1 pearl every level this skill is raised. When the Holy Spirit's pearl is used on a skill, it can increase the maximum level of the skill by 20%, subject to rounding, and it can instantly raise the skill to the new maximum level. Holy Spirit's Shield, current level, LV 4, highest level, LV 5, level required to upgrade to LV 4, LV 80. An invisible shield that is always protecting the surroundings of the Holy Spirit Beast's body, forcibly decreasing all damage received by 60%. When HP is higher than 40%, the user will not die after receiving a lethal blow, and HP will be reserved at 1. HP recovers 10% every second, and after death, the user can directly revive on the spot. When revived, HP will recover to max, there will be no losses, and can revive 3 times a day. Holy Spirit's Gift, current level, LV 4, highest level, LV 5, level required to upgrade to LV 5, LV 80. Using Holy Spirit Force to bless the Master increases the level of all of his/her skills. Effect. Level of all skills of Master plus 4, ineffective towards skills that are already max level, directly takes effect towards new skills that appear later. Effect exists even while not summoned. Not only did the range increase after Xiao Hui's Eye of the Holy Spirit had been raised to max level, but there were also no longer any restrictions on the target. This meant that they would be able to receive full information on targets of any level or grade. Leveling up, Holy Spirit's Shield meant that Xiao Hui's survivability once again increased, and leveling up, Holy Spirit's Pearl, and Holy Spirit's Gift, brought Ling Chen massive benefits. The War God's technique had been leveled up to LV 11, Broken Shadow, and Vanishing Shadow had been leveled up to LV 9, and the skills that Ling Chen had for the longest time, Heaven Wind Technique, and Item Manipulation Technique, had been leveled up to max level. The Super Stealing skill from the Lucky Cat, True Lucky Hand, had also been raised to max level. Heaven Wind Technique, current level, LV 10 max level. An ancient battle technique that can greatly increase the ability to control any weapon after practice. Effect. When using any weapon, damage dealt is increased by 50%. Effect does not stack with other weapon proficiency skills. The max level, Heaven Wind Technique, gave him an extra 50% damage stat when using any type of weapon. No matter if it was the fact that it applied to any weapon or how powerful the effects were, it was far superior to ordinary weapon proficiency skills. This ancient battle technique from the god beast Tao Tai had become one of the most important skills to Ling Chen in combat. Ling Chen then looked down towards the item manipulation technique, which was also from Tao Tai. Based on past experience, the max level item manipulation technique should allow Ling Chen to ignore 10 levels for equipment requirements. Now that Ling Chen was LV60, it was expected that he could equip the LV70, Slasher, and Stone of Resentment. However, after Ling Chen read the LV10 item manipulation technique as description, his eyes widened. Item manipulation technique, current level, LV10 max level. An ancient battle technique that allows you to equip equipment that surpasses your current level after practice. Effect: ignores all level restrictions on all equipment. Every time the item manipulation technique was leveled up from LV1 to LV9, it allowed Ling Chen to ignore another level for equipment restrictions. However, the max level item manipulation technique didn't merely allow him to ignore 10 levels, but allowed him to ignore all level restrictions. This meant that the max level item manipulation technique not only allowed Ling Chen to equip LV70 equipment, but also LV80 or even LV100 equipment. Moreover, even if his level dropped to LV0, he would still be able to equip LV100 equipment with the item manipulation technique. Ling Chen sighed in amazement. This effect was simply too heaven-defying. He happily equipped the Slasher gauntlets and hung the Stone of Resentment around his neck before looking at the max level True Lucky Hand in anticipation. True Lucky Hand, current level, LV5 max level. The evolved version of Lucky Hand, a godly skill that comes from the treasure creature Lucky Cat. Anyone who obtains this skill will receive world-dominating theft skills that will cause people to shudder at the sound of their name. Upon use, the user can use an unseen hand to steal any item from the target. Legends say that a pinnacle True Lucky Hand can instantly steal everything a target has. However, it is said that training to the pinnacle is as difficult as reaching the heavens, and even the Lucky Cat has not been able to unleash such power. Within range, the user can steal up to 5 items of their choice from the target. The success rate is affected by the target's level, grade, and luck. Base success rate for stealing is luck x 5%. Success rate is increased by 50% for an item that is known. The ability to steal without being detected is also affected by the target's level, grade, and luck. Base success rate for not being detected is luck x 5%. Consumes 10 MP, cooldown time 5 seconds. Note: this skill was from the treasure spirit beast Lucky Cat, and LV5 is only the level of skill that the Lucky Cat reached. It is not necessarily the maximum level of True Lucky Hand. The Lucky Cat's True Lucky Hand has been at LV5 since 600 years ago, and it has not been able to level it up ever since. It is possible that LV5 is the True Lucky Hand's final level, so the extreme power of the legends might not actually exist. The max level True Lucky Hand had quite a strange description. After looking through it a few times, Ling Chen then looked at Broken Shadow, Vanishing Shadow, and Shi Ling's 2 upgraded skills, memorizing their new stats. By now, Xiao Hui had collected everything from the Ice Soul Undead Wolf, and had created a new Holy Spirit's Pearl, which had all been moved to Ling Chen's bag. The Holy Spirit's Pearl was a ridiculously overpowered item that could increase the maximum level of a skill. Ling Chen had used the first Holy Spirit's Pearl on Soul Demise, turning it into Ling Chen's most monstrous skill. When used on bosses, it became an absolutely game-breaking skill. What should he use this second Holy Spirit's Pearl on? Ling Chen looked through his skills, and after thinking for a while, he decided not to immediately use it. Instead, he put it away and started to go through the spoils of war he had received from the Ice Soul Undead Wolf. The demon skeleton dragon had dropped a mysterious god-grade ring, and the 8th fiend had dropped a Heaven's End-grade necklace. The Ice Soul Undead Wolf's spoils of war wouldn't be too shabby either. Ling Chen found that he had obtained 4,000 Underworld coins, 19 Ice Element Wolf Fangs, 2 single-use skill scrolls for the Ice Soul Undead Wolf's ultimate skill, Extreme Blue Radiance, and 7 pieces of equipment, 1 Silver Grade, for Gold Grade, and 2 Celestial Grade. One of the Celestial Grade equipment was a pair of boots, and the other was a rare cloak. However, what made Ling Chen feel quite depressed was that there was no equipment above Celestial Grade. Ice Soul Cloud Boots type, Boots, Grade, Celestial, Equipment Requirements, any profession above LV 70. A beautiful pair of boots made from unknown materials. They are as clear as diamonds, and they contain a noble and cold, faint blue light. They look like they've been instilled with a mysterious energy, and they are unexpectedly light. Stats: Defense plus 260, Constitution plus 35, Agility plus 70, Movement speed plus 25, Water resistance plus 8%, provides immunity to slipping while walking on ice and snow. Bonus skill: Blue Blessing, releases a watery blue light that covers one's body, causing the user's water resistance to increase by 40% for 30 seconds and provides immunity to frozen status during that time. Costs 40 MP, cooldown time 100 seconds. Ice Soul Crystal Cloak type, Cloak, Grade, Celestial, Equipment Requirements, any profession above LV 70. A crystalline yet soft and light cloak. When blowing in the breeze, it gives off a star-like light, containing an unbelievable lightness. Stats: Defense plus 160, HP plus 600, Agility plus 230, Movement speed plus 20, Water resistance plus 5%, provides immunity to movement speed and magic attack power debuffs. Bonus skill: Ice Crystal Snow Dance, causes the cloak to flutter, letting out large amounts of snow and ice to restrict enemies, causing all targets within 10 meters to lose 30% hit and evasion for 20 seconds. Cost 30 MP, cooldown time 100 seconds. Compared to the Demon Skeleton Dragon and the 8th Fiend, this Ice Soul Undead Wolf was much stingier. Luckily, both of these Celestial Grade equipment were useful to Ling Chen, and he equipped both of them immediately. With 4 pieces of ice-type equipment on his body, he gave off a cold, piercing glow. Facing 3 high-level Heaven's End grade bosses had seemed like an incredibly intense and dangerous ordeal to Ling Chen at first, but he had completely underestimated how powerful he was. None of the 3 Heaven's End grade bosses were able to threaten him at all, and instead they had given him large amounts of EXP, SP, and equipment. What's more, they had all dropped high-grade equipment that were useful to him, allowing him to change almost all of his equipment. Now, apart from the Fairy's Blessing, earrings, the lowest grade equipment on him was Celestial Grade. He had 5 Heaven's End grade equipment, as well as a mysterious God grade ring, which had fairly lackluster stats. Ling Chen took a close look through all of the equipment on him before focusing his attention on the Lachesis tier, trying to see if there were any hidden special effects. After looking at its description, Ling Chen's eyes fell on its equipment requirements, and a look of confusion flashed in his eyes. Equipment requirements unknown. And yet, he was able to wear it on his hand and have the stats apply to him. Could it be that unknown meant that there were no equipment requirements? Or was there some other meaning? After feeling confused for a while, Ling Chen stopped thinking about it. After looking at his SP, which was now more than 100,000, he casually raised Broken Shadow and Vanishing Shadow to their max level. With the Heaven's Jealousy debuff, Ling Chen required twice as much SP to level up his skills, and because of how powerful his skills were, they already required an insane amount of SP to level up. As such, even with Xiao Hui's Holy Spirit's gift, he needed SP more than anyone else. SP was mainly obtained from killing bosses, and now that Ling Chen could easily kill Celestial and Heaven's End grade bosses, he was no longer in short supply of SP. Adding on Xiao Hui's LV4 Holy Spirit gift, Ling Chen no longer had to worry about leveling up his skills. From now on, he probably wouldn't even be able to finish spending all of his SP. Broken Shadow, current level, LV10, max level. One of the Feng Chen sect's ultimate escaping techniques. After activating, the user's body becomes like an illusory shadow, and the user will be almost impossible to stop or capture. Effects: movement speed plus 900%, evasion plus 900%. Effects last for 30 seconds. Can be used 7 times per day. Vanishing Shadow, current level, LV10, max level. One of the most advanced concealment techniques of the Feng Chen sect. After casting, the user's body disappears without even a trace, and even the ghost god wouldn't be able to discover him or her. Effects: conceals the user's body. While concealed, the user cannot attack or counterattack. The concealment is cancelled upon receiving damage. Costs 5 MP per second, and can be maintained for an unlimited amount of time. After cancelling the concealment, this skill cannot be used within 30 seconds. The max level Broken Shadow not only lasted for 30 seconds each time, but it could also be used 7 times per day. That meant Ling Chen would be able to activate Broken Shadow for a total of 210 seconds every day. What's more, the max level Vanishing Shadow didn't have any time limits, and once it was activated, it would not deactivate unless he was hit or he cancelled the skill. It was a perfect stealth skill. The only downside to it was that once he cancelled the skill, he would not be able to use it again within 30 seconds. Underworld Fire.
Ding! Your pet Xiao Hui has successfully devoured the Ice Soul Undead Wolf. HP plus 600, MP plus 350, Defense plus 200.
The final Heaven's End grade entity, the Ice Soul Undead Wolf, was devoured by Xiao Hui. Continuously devouring 3 Heaven's End grade bosses was like a massive banquet for Xiao Hui, and he had received incredible benefits. The higher grade the corpses he devoured were, the more stats he would receive. After finishing eating, Xiao Hui fell silent for a while. His horn then flashed with light as he continuously spat out 3 small, round objects. They were only about as big as a thumb, and they were completely transparent, as if they were made of glass. Could they be energy orbs again? Ling Chen picked them up and looked at their descriptions. Ice Soul Heart Protector Pearl, a pearl of protection created from the Ice Soul Undead Wolf's core energy. Once the energy within it is triggered, it will release an extremely protective ice element power. Upon contact with armor, the Heart Protector Pearl will be absorbed into the armor, and when the wearer suffers a fatal blow, the Heart Protector Pearl will be crushed, releasing energy that cancels out the fatal damage. Effects can only take place once. A single Ice Soul Heart Protector Pearl could save him from fatal damage once, so 3 of them meant that they could block fatal damage 3 times, meaning that they were essentially 3 extra lives for Ling Chen. Ling Chen took a pearl and experimentally placed it against his chest. He heard a ding as the Ice Soul Heart Protector Pearl was absorbed into the chilling crystal battle armor. Because they were both of the ice element and looked crystalline, it essentially fused with the chilling crystal battle armor perfectly.
Ding! You have successfully attached the Ice Soul Heart Protector Pearl to the chilling crystal battle armor. The Ice Soul Heart Protector Pearl's activation conditions are the same as those of the Evil God's Mask. Please decide which one should be activated first. If no choice is made, the Ice Soul Heart Protector Orb will be activated first. There was no need for Ling Chen to think, and he immediately replied,
"Activate the Evil God's Mask first."
The system gave a ding of confirmation in response. The evil god's mask's effects could be activated every 10 seconds, and if Ling Chen received any fatal damage during those 10 seconds of cooldown time, he would be dead without a doubt. With the Ice Soul Heart Protector Pearls, he now had 3 additional layers of safety during those 10 seconds. Unless he faced mysterious god-grade enemies, it would be difficult for him to even die. Ling Chen once again came to the end of the Ice Purgatory, and the 3-colored barrier was now gone, revealing a gray exit. Path of Shadows, Path of Darkness, Ice Purgatory. After passing through the Fire Purgatory, he would be able to reach his destination, the Underworld Blood Lake. After walking out of the Ice Purgatory, Ling Chen came to a narrow, dark passageway. The passageway was not too long, and he reached the end in less than half a minute. At the end was a pair of tightly closed stone doors, on which 2 dark red words were engraved, Fire Purgatory. Xiao Hui, who had been walking in front, stopped walking, and a gray light shone from his horn, becoming more and more intense. At the end, it became so bright that it covered more than half of his body. Ling Chen stopped walking and looked at Xiao Hui's because of his strange behavior. Apart from when he devoured things, his horn would only light up when he detected danger, treasure, or hidden areas. However, Ling Chen had never seen his horn glow so brightly before.
Xiao Hui, what did you find?
Ling Chen asked in a low voice. Xiao Hui gave a long wood as the light on his horn became brighter and brighter, and his hair started to stand on end. He lowered his body, almost pressing down against the cold ground. Ling Chen instantly realized that Xiao Hui had detected something incredibly dangerous ahead, and was warning him. In front of him was evidently the Fire Purgatory. Xiao Hui naturally knew Ling Chen's strength. For him to act in such a way, he was undeniably telling Ling Chen that what was ahead was a danger that he could not overcome. From the gray light, it seemed like this would be the most dangerous thing that he had ever encountered.
Xiao Hui looks very scared. Could there be something incredibly terrifying ahead?
Kair floated over to Ling Chen's side as she asked with a look of worry. Ling Chen frowned. Xiao Hui's detection abilities were peerless, and he had never given a false alert before. His warning was clearly telling Ling Chen that if they continued, it was possible that they would die. Before entering here, he had heard from the undead warrior that there was something terrifying in the Fire Purgatory, something so terrifying to the point that even the mysterious god Grade 8 Underworld gods would feel scared. However, since he had come here, how could he retreat? In order to obtain all of the Lunar Scourge's orbs, he would still jump down even if there was a chasm of despair in front of him. He would not retreat. After lightly breathing in, Ling Chen gripped his weapons as he walked towards the entrance of the Fire Purgatory. When he reached where Xiao Hui was silent. He suddenly leapt towards him and bit onto his pants, trying to drag him backwards. However, he was too small and wasn't very strong, so he wasn't able to stop Ling Chen at all. He looked up at Ling Chen, a look of warning and pleading in his eyes. This was the first time Xiao Hui had done such a thing in response to danger, causing Ling Chen's heart to tremble. A range of emotions flickered across his face, and he squatted down as he patted Xiao Hui's head, saying,
"Don't worry. No matter how dangerous it is ahead of us, it's still easy for me to stay alive. Back when I was LV30, even Snow Cherry couldn't do anything to me. Surely the enemy in front of us can't be more powerful than Snow Cherry, right?"
Xiao Hui refused to let go and desperately tried to drag Ling Chen back, completely determined to not let Ling Chen advance. His detection abilities not only told him that the enemy ahead was incomparably strong, but he could also feel the danger of going ahead. This time, what Xiao Hui detected was simply darkness. A completely pure darkness. This meant that if Ling Chen went into the Fire Purgatory, he would die without a doubt. However, no matter what Xiao Hui did, he was not able to change Ling Chen's mind. Even though he knew how dangerous it was ahead, Ling Chen would not choose to retreat. After falling silent for a while, Ling Chen patted Xiao Hui's head again and picked him up before putting him on Snow Cherry's back and slowly walking towards the entrance of the Fire Purgatory. Xiao Hui knew that he was powerless to change the mind of his stubborn master, so he could only lower his head and look forwards as his fur started to stand again. Step, step, step. Ling Chen walked through the silent passageway and stood right in front of the entrance to the Fire Purgatory. Ahead of him was the pair of tightly closed stone doors, and through a small gap he could see some flickering colors. Ling Chen stretched out his hand and pressed it against the stone doors. The instant his hand came into contact with the stone doors, an overwhelming feeling of suppression appeared within his heart to the point that he felt that it was difficult to breathe. This was a feeling he would experience right before facing incredible danger. Just what is hidden ahead? Why does it give me such a terrifying feeling? This feeling clearly tells me that if I take another step forwards, I'll definitely die. Ling Chen's body was fixed in place as an incomparably serious expression appeared on his face. Xiao Hui's reaction and the feeling he felt created a slight desire of retreat within him, but the instant it appeared, Ling Chen immediately quashed it. Retreating in the face of danger was not something he did. The Lunar Scourge's orbs were his only hope to revive Shui Ruo, so he couldn't allow himself to retreat no matter what. Rumble. Ling Chen pushed out vigorously, and the heavy stone doors swung open easily. A fiery light flashed, lighting up the entire passageway between the Ice Purgatory and Fire Purgatory. In front of Ling Chen's eyes was a world of fire. The ground was completely covered with flames, leaving not even a speck of white. Although these flames seemed to form a single body of flames, they burned at different intensities at different places. Some places had small tongues of fire, while others had incredibly intense and raging flames. The smallest flames were 10 or so centimeters tall, while the largest shot up to 4 to 5 meters. What was strangest, however, was the color of these flames. They weren't the normal red or orange color, nor were they the blue or purple of extremely hot flames. Instead, they were an incredibly strange gray. What's more, despite standing in front of this sea of flames, Ling Chen couldn't feel any heat. Ling, why is the fire here all gray? Are there gray flames in this world? Ling Chen frowned as he asked, but he did not walk forwards. Ling spread her wings, and after a flash of red light, she turned into her human form. After looking at the gray flames for a while, her eyes flashed, as if she discovered something, and she said, "This is Underworld fire. And an extremely pure type at that." Underworld fire? It was the first time Ling Chen had heard of this. Although it's called fire, it's not true fire, Ling continued. She possessed the golden crow, vermilion bird, and phoenix's flames, and she was undeniably the sovereign of fire. This is a type of extremely high-grade miasma, and it is incredibly dense. As such, it's no longer something that is colorless or formless, but it has taken shape. It takes the form of burning flames as it flows, so it's called Underworld fire. Places with Underworld fire are like heaven for undead, but the requirements for Underworld fire to appear are incredibly strict. It should only exist within this Underworld place. Underworld fire, although it was called fire, it was not actually fire, but an extremely dense type of miasma that merely looked like flames. If it was true fire, Ling Chen wouldn't be afraid at all. This was because Ling, a mysterious god-grade existence, gave all of her companions immunity to fire damage. Since it was miasma, theoretically, it wouldn't harm him either. The underworld was filled with miasma, but because of Ling, he and his pets hadn't taken any damage. Logically, the underworld fire shouldn't deal damage to him either. After thinking about this, Ling Chen finally advanced and stepped into the burning underworld fire, truly stepping into the fire purgatory. After stepping into the underworld fire, he did not feel any discomfort, but he felt that he had been brushed by something invisible. Neither he nor his pets lost any HP, allowing Ling Chen to let out a breath of relief. At this moment, a heavy rumbling sounded out from behind him as the stone doors tightly closed. Ling Chen frowned and quickly returned to the stone doors, trying to open them again. However, the stone doors seemed to have become thousands of times heavier, and he couldn't make them budge at all. Ling Chen immediately retreated and raised the chilling star and twilight spear, roaring as he launched two heaven-destroying slashes at the stone door. Clang! Sparks flashed, and the sound of the impact was deafening. The recoil caused Ling Chen to take many steps backwards, and he almost fell to the ground. After launching those attacks, his arms were now numb, while only a shallow mark had appeared on the stone door. In the next moment, the thin mark disappeared as if the door had never been damaged. With the Scorpio Orb, all of Ling Chen's attacks carried with them a powerful destruction effect. The attacks he just unleashed would have been able to destroy an incredibly tough boulder, yet it was barely able to damage the stone doors. Now that the stone doors were unable to be opened again, he did not have anywhere to retreat to.